What's going on, everybody? Big D coming at you. Glad to be here and glad to be back with you all tonight. Got a great guest tonight. Been really looking forward to talking with him. But before we get started, I want to remind you all, please go click the link tree that's down pinned in the chat or down in the description below and go support my advertisers, sponsors, and preferred retail partners. They help continue to keep the programming going on the show that you love and enjoy, and your support goes a long way. Make sure you use those exclusive promo codes that are only available to my viewers out there that will save you some coinage, because I'm thinking about you. So whether you're looking for sticks, you're looking for accessories, I got you covered everywhere. So please go show them some support and some love and take advantage of those exclusive promo codes to save some coinage. Tonight, my guest, he has probably one of the hottest, most talked about boutique brands for this year. Everywhere I go, people always go, have you had that brand? Have you had this brand? What do you think of the brand? And I love the brand. And Brandy and I had him on our Tuesday night show a few months ago, and we loved the cigar. It did get a beautiful drool bucket rating from me. So, but he's got some new stuff coming down the line. Talk about the brand a little bit if you're not familiar with the brand out there. A little bit of everything. We'll talk about what do you think the key to his success is. The fact that within this year, I mean, this brand has just exploded out there and has a lot of people excited. It's got me excited. And so without further ado, bring on the brand owner from Domain Cigars, Mr. Daniel Lance.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going, sir?
That's a heck of an introduction. Thank you very much. But if you're Big D, what am I? Because I'm also Daniel. So
that's why I am Big D.
Just two D's hanging out.
Two D.
Double D tonight.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us back on. I'm Daniel Lance. I'm the co-founder of Domain Cigars with Esteban Disla. Esteban Disla is, of course, very iconic in the industry. He's originally Dominican, moved to Nicaragua more than 25 years ago, started working for a company that was called Latin America Cigars that later got turned into STG, and went on to found another factory called Nicasueño. Whenever he left that operation, him and I teamed together, and we created the first fully vertically integrated out of the gate cigar company in probably more than 30 years. So I think that probably answers a lot of the questions around, I guess, like what our success or what our vision was for this company. But yeah, thanks for having us on again. Had a great time chatting with you last time about the cigar. Was a bit concerned about the drool bucket thing, but after I figured out it was a good thing, then it all came together. So
it is the highest honor I can bestow onto a cigar.
Okay, that's I actually wish more reviews had that kind of honor. It would make more sense. Instead, you get all these really out there ideas. You know, some people tasting fatty tuna and stuff like that in their cigars. I don't know.
Well, I really appreciate the Antarctic cinnamon that comes out of your cigars with that clubbed baby seal fat. It's just rendered so perfectly. I can taste the fear in the seal.
A lot of people don't pick up on the clubbed baby seal fat.
That's right. The endangered white rhino horn. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, and I asked Esteban, I go, we need more rhino horn in this. And he goes, I know exactly what you're talking about. So, I appreciate that. So, yeah,
exactly.
Obviously, we're joking around, people.
That's right. Sorry, that's my half wheel review.
No, I no comment.
I didn't do the voice. I didn't do the voice this time. All right, I didn't do the voice this time. That's just if I was hired by Half Wheel to do a review, that's my review.
No, they have some good voices over there. Patrick has a great voice. He has a really great voice. Yeah, man. No, there's a lot. Cigar reviewing, man. We could talk about that for hours. I'll probably put everyone to sleep, but there's a lot of subjectivity to cigar reviewing. I don't know. For me, I love individual reviews of a cigar smoker that, comes out and says, "Hey, I see what you're doing with this cigar, and maybe it wasn't for me, but I know 5 other people that it was for or could be for." And I feel like that's a very qualified review. And then other people are like, "This is the best cigar I've had, my favorite cigar released this year, what have you." And that's a fantastic review, as long as it's coming from, an individual, and they mean it, with integrity, I guess.
Yeah, I do, and I think that the review itself, sitting down, recording a video, and posting a review had its place, and I quit doing them when I saw the writing on the wall that when the numbers started to plummet, I'm like, yeah, I think I need to get out of this, and
get out of there.
Yeah, and I'm like, and really I really wanted to sit down and talk with people more than actually doing a review. Yeah. So, that 30-day YouTube suspension really kind of made me.
Oh, you got a suspension?
I didn't realize I got suspended for 30 days.
For cigars, or like what?
No, because I was in full compliance with all of their rules. Oh, they had created a rule to go after. Like, I'm not a big channel by any means.
Yeah.
I'm a medium-sized channel. But they created a rule specifically to go to target channels like mine that were monetizing off of advertisers and sponsors. Now, I was in full compliance with their rules on that, but they created a rule to target. So when I got suspended, it was for being a non-monetized channel, monetizing off of non-Google approved advertisers.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And so,
I get that.
Yeah, so they sent me the thing why I was suspended, and I went back through the terms of services, and I'm like, I can't find this anywhere. And then they sent me a PDF file that had the updated terms of services that took effect on June 1st of 2022. And I so happened to get suspended on May 1st of 2022. So the suspension took place, and it gave them permission to enact this earlier for those that are grossly negligent in breaking that rule. And that was one word that they used repeatedly, my gross negligence.
Interesting. Yeah.
So
I don't know. I don't know if that, I guess, like, as a cigar maker, right? Like, if I can speak from like that corner of the aisle, if you will, it, like, reviews can be really good to help. Like, you have an opinion and people want to know your opinion, right? Positive, negative, in between, right? As a cigar maker, we're really cautious about sharing reviews or publicizing reviews that are single source, speak for a group of people. Don't do reviews like on your product if they've never done a re-review on your product, because a lot of times reviewers, whenever they bomb a product, they leave it open to a re-review. But if they never do re-reviews, then there's no point. But we really like panel reviews. Like, we really, really like, and every other cigar maker that I've talked to really likes panel reviews, right? If it's a panel and it's, not 2 people, but like 3 people or more. Like, recently we had a 5-panel review, and it was great, and it was all blind. They didn't know what they were smoking, and they did a really, really detailed cover on Neutron, and we really like that kind of stuff. But anytime, like, when we're all the way at the factory in Esteli, Nicaragua, and we're hearing from other brands that we're manufacturing for, co-manufacturing for in some way, negative or disdain for what your company or what your media outlet has said about products that they've made, that's like deeply concerning. It's like deeply concerning that not only is it like they're not saying something positive, but they're going out of their way to share something really negative or a negative experience, like with a media outlet. And I've never heard anything about your outlet, obviously, and nothing but good things about your reviews and how you conduct yourself. But some of these other outlets, I mean, it's bizarre how many people just really do not appreciate their opinion of their products.
Well,
it's a lot. It's a lot.
The big thing, and the one thing that I noticed when I started actually sitting down and doing stuff in 2019 was there wasn't a whole lot of people out there doing that. It wasn't until the pandemic hit that people started, and a lot of people got big. And then, towards the beginning of 2022, most of them quit. But you still have people jumping in thinking that they can get in. But the vast majority, and I've met a vast majority of them, they're stick hunters. They just want free stuff. They really don't care. They just want give me free stuff. And it's why the PCA had to change their rules on media.
Yeah. I mean, we used to I've been going to PCA for a long time, since 2010, and we used to call them trick or treaters, right? Because they would come by and trick or treat with us, biscuits and stuff. I don't really fault anyone for reaching out to a cigar company and wanting to exchange value in the form of creating content for them, and asking for a couple of sticks for that. I also own another company called Lujo Concepts, right? Which is a cigar cutter company. LujoConcepts.com. It's an accessory, of course, American made and everything like that. Very, very different kind of product from what's on the market, generally speaking. But I mean, we would have people reach out to us for upwards of, $10,000 or $15,000, $20,000, $80,000 a year worth of product, asking for, we need 5 of these and all that for a review. It's a cigar cutter. You don't need 5 of them to review, one and decide if you like it. But we would have things like that happen, and we eventually turned those down for an incident that happened with a reviewer that canceled out a bunch of other reviews, right? And I'm, as the executive of a cigar company, of a cigar brand, you hear more negative. You can make hundreds and hundreds of thousands of cigars that everyone loves and enjoys, but you're going to focus the most on the few dozen people that reach out to you that are having maybe a little bit of a burn issue, or maybe they didn't particularly care for how one cigar they remembered it differently the last time they smoked it, or something like that, right? You're going to focus on that way more, but you kind of need to, right? I'm nothing without being a vessel to the factory. All that positive, negative information or critiques of the product, all that goes directly to the factory, sometimes right down to the rollers, that whether it be positive, negative, or in between, that are constructing the cigars, because it's super valuable. So we even take critiques, and sometimes you'll even see on a review that we've gotten a couple of critiques on, I'll even plug into it and say, hey, thanks, I agree with this or that that you've said, and we're working on this or that. And so you have to be practical about it. If you want to show people that you're actually listening to them, right? Just ignoring them and staring at the walls, definitely not the way to go about it. But certainly I can't fault reviewers for, they want to make content, and they're passionate about cigars, and they want to reach out, and yeah, sure, they're looking for a 5-pack or something like that, so they can write up a review. Now, if they do that routinely, and they regularly bomb all those cigars, well, that's questionable, right? But it's also questionable if they don't admit that they were given whatever it is to review. So that's, I don't know. So I guess I'm not as offended by it, but
I always bought everything that I review. Now, however, if I was sent something, I was always out there that this was sent in by for review. But I bought everything, I didn't want, I didn't want any preferential treatment from anybody, or to feel that if you send me something that, there's this, hey, I'm sending you this, you get something good, because that's not how I've ever operated. It's just like, look, I'll do it. I'll record the review, and good, bad, or indifferent, it's based on my palate's perspective of what I think. But I've never trashed a cigar ever on anything. If I didn't like it, it was always, it's a good cigar. It's just not for me. That the flavor profiling is in my wheelhouse. It's not something I like. But if you like these flavors, you should definitely pick this cigar up. Even if it's not, you should still pick it up and try. Maybe you pick up something in it I didn't that makes it good for you. I never trashed a cigar. I always made sure that, look, I didn't like it, but that's okay. You can't like everything that you smoke. And that's one of those issues I always had watching people who did, when they were doing reviews, the pandemic reviewers, was they liked everything that they smoked. And I'm like, you can't like everything. You can't like everything you smoke. Here he's smoking, the cigar's falling apart, and this is just such a great cigar. The construction's good. It's half of the cigar's falling apart.
Like the wrappers on the floor.
Come on. You gotta.
I like how you've dubbed them the pandemic reviewers, right?
That's what they are, because almost all of them are gone now. Not many of them are left that started, and a lot of them had big followings and got big, and then it's like, I'm done doing this. I don't want to do it. Like, I was doing 5 reviews a week from 2019 to 2022, 5 a week. Sunday through Thursday, I was doing a review of cigars, and it burned me out doing all that. And
for sure.
Well, I'm glad the suspension was so good, because it got me away from the reviews. And I got to do the live content. I prefer doing live content over pre-recorded any day of the week.
Yeah, the live content. I think a lot of people don't prefer the live content, like making it, like cigar makers and so on. But I think also, they're very concerned maybe about what they don't know about product, or again, like I said, you tend to focus on like what's negative that's been said. You know what I mean?
I get it.
So, I think that's like more the concern for us. Like, whether it's a review or just like a customer that smoked the cigar or wasn't happy with this or that. I mean, like you have to value like that feedback, because like if people are willing to like reach out and actually share their feedback about it, like I value it tremendously. But I also try not to overly sweat it. And I've always told retailers. I've always told retailers, if someone's not happy with a cigar, like you can absolutely replace it, and we'll make you whole and everything like that. And some retailers, because of the state or municipality that they're in, right, even down to the city, they're not allowed to do certain things like swap out a cigar that is not performing properly or something. Because at the end of the day, it's a handmade product, right?
Yeah.
Whether you make 100 of them or 500 million of them, like you're going to have something go wrong with one eventually, right? And it's just a numbers game, really. I mean, it's put together by humans, and that's the way we prefer it. So,
well, when we started the Tuesday show, it was, one, I missed doing reviews, and my old partner Ryan from Rocky Mountain Cigar Show, he missed doing them, and he's like, well, we should do it live. And I'm like, I don't think anybody's going to watch a live review. I go, we got to have make a reason why somebody would want to tune in to watch. And I go, if we brought the brand owners on, that'd give people a reason to watch. Because now it really puts
them terrifying for a brand owner.
It puts them in the house. Well, we did 6 weeks of shows with no guests because I couldn't get any brands that wanted to come on. They said no. It's like, we'll send you cigars to review, but we're not interested in coming on. And when I finally got the first 2 guests to come on and sit, then all the brands that told me they weren't interested then came back to me and go, yeah, we want to come on, because they saw what the show was. This isn't like, you be scared to death sitting there. It really, it's all about having a good time and showcasing and promoting your brand, and giving people an idea of what they can expect with the brand live. Plus, all those questions people ask because they're curious. It gives them an opportunity to get a question to have them answer your question or their question by you, like immediately.
Right.
So it really serves, and
Right.
we've had no problems. I've reached out to one brand owner and they never got back to me, and we went ahead and reviewed the cigar, and neither one of us liked it. We had issues with the cigar, and he immediately hit me up after the show and said, "I want to redo on this and I want to come on." And I'm like, "Yeah, we want you to." He's like, I've got something brand new that's going to be dropping in a month." He goes, "I want to send it to you guys. You guys can have the exclusive on it, and I want to come on." And we did, and it was a fantastic, way better than what we smoked before. And he admitted that what we smoked, he didn't feel was the best cigar that he had out there. But he appreciated our honesty and what we were doing, and he wanted to watch it. That's why he never got back to me. And he said, "I wanted to watch it and see what you guys thought, because I don't think it's my best cigar I have out there. So the fact that you guys agree and it concurred with what I thought, yeah."
Right.
So, we were never in it to trash a brand. It was all about, hey, let's, we want to have it on. We want to have you on. We really want to showcase your cigar. And then I look at the analytics of how many people watch, and I'm just like, people really like the show. And they do. And we've had numerous brands come on multiple times. Every time they got something new coming, it's like, "Hey, we got something new. I want to do the Tuesday show." "Hey, I want to do the Monday and Tuesday show." Yeah, let's get you on, man. Let's do it. I want to promote and showcase what you have.
Right. And it's definitely, I mean, if you've been a cigar maker for a minute, and I've been a cigar maker for, in the cigar world, a grand total of like 10 or 11 minutes, but in the cigar world timelines are like forever long, right? So like whenever you panel your cigars, like with a lot of different palates, right? You definitely learn like we know the palate of everyone that works in our factory, right? So we know roughly like what somebody's conceived interest in a particular cigar is going to be, just by knowing their palate. It's no different than you having a buddy that like you smoke a cigar and you go, "Hey, so and so's going to love this," right? Maybe it's not for me, but so and so he's going to really love this because it's right in line with this other smoke. But like there are certain wrappers, and I would say like certain blends that line up against those wrappers. Ecuador tends to be one of those where it's a cigar that sells exceptionally well. The one that you're smoking the New Gentropy right now, and we named it New Gentropy because we wanted to make sure it was impossible to pronounce in English.
And I failed that in the green room.
We were talking in the green room, and we wish it was recorded because his attempts were.
It was, but I was trying to read it off the brand, off the band, and then on the back of the cigar it has it, and I could have read that so much easier instead of straining my eyes, going, "I knew."
It is kind of, it's a tongue twister too, but
it is. But it's a really good cigar.
But in that wrapper, like the blend that you want to come up with for that wrapper, particularly the way Esteban likes to put together cigars, it's going to create something like distinct. It's going to be offset in a very distinct way. They do really well. I mean, between the two blends per month in box sales, I mean we're normally within 10 or 20 boxes of each blend. I mean, so they're incredibly tight on how well both of them perform in the market. But it just so happens with Habano that, you're rarely, like whenever going back to the conversation about reviews, you rarely see Habano strike more than like a 91 points in any review. It's really rare for Habano to break a 91 point review. And I don't know if that just has something to do with like cigar reviewers and, maybe what they go for in a smoke or what have you. But But that said, I mean, Habanos outpace many of the other
I
packers,
love
like
I
massively.
love Habano, and I love all styles of Habano cigars. I mean,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't
And
matter.
there's a lot of styles.
And there's a lot.
Yeah,
I love all of them, and they're like you. And I do agree that I think that your beginner smoker and maybe some of your intermediate smokers don't understand the Habano, which is why they tend to pull lower on their reviews. But when you look at reviews from seasoned smokers, those vets, they always rate high with vets because it's one of those leaves that's so interchangeable with
yeah,
so many different blends out there that adds that the dynamics of the flavor profiling completely changes from your binder and filler, well, and how it's put together, that it's such a complex leaf and it's so interchangeable with everything out there that I love it. I love Habanos. There's not
yeah.
I really I don't think there's much better out there than a Habano. And I know everybody has their favorite leaf that they like, but
I, I do enjoy Habano quite a bit. Obviously, we put out Ninja Entropy, 9 different sizes, and there's a lot of variety in those 9 sizes on how they smoke and what flavors rise to the top of the different botellas. But I would say more often than not, Habano inside of certain lines, like there's a whole area of the cigar business that thinks Habano needs to be characteristically medium bodied, and we have a fairly full body Habano, but it's extraordinarily well balanced, and like a really well balanced Habano can be really sneaky. Most cigars, when they're well balanced, can be sneaky strong, but that Habano is actually a double Ajero Habano.
I love it, and the thing, and it lets you know right off the bat, like those first couple puffs, that
Yeah,
Lajero lets you know it's there,
yeah,
and
yeah.
and if
Yeah,
you love having a nice
yeah,
punch, like right off the bat, that really tells you what a cigar is about. I mean, this one does it.
right, right.
And I was working with another brand owner because he working on with him on creating a new blend, and so he gave me a
Oh,
blend,
wow.
and I told him straightforward, I go, bro, you have really got. I go, it's good, it's really good, but the fact that you're waiting to get into where you get punched, people aren't going to wait around for that. When you're telling somebody you're
Yeah,
having this is a full bodied cigar,
yeah,
they want to get hit right off the bat that they know this is
yeah,
full bodied,
yeah,
and so he took those notes back to the manufacturer, and then
yeah,
they made the changes to make sure, and yeah, now I'm like, and he's like, you don't think it's too strong in here? I go, if you're saying it's full body, that's what people want. I'm telling you,
yeah.
they don't want to wait. They don't want to wait. They want that Lajero punch
Yeah.
immediately.
I think Esteli Habano definitely has a signature style because whenever you smoke Piloto Dominicano, which is Habano grown in Dominicana, which all of this is originally origin is a little bit confusing, like in the tobacco genome, to kind of figure out where this variety kind of comes from originally, but it's believed to be coming from North America, and particularly probably the Virginias, and then got moved to Cuba, and then from Cuba to Dominican Republic, and then to Nicaragua, Ecuador, Honduras, and so on. But like whenever you smoke a Piloto Ecuador, the version of Habano, it definitely does not oftentimes have the sharpness the way that we put Habano together in Esteli. And Esteli has a bit of a signature whenever Habano comes out of Esteli. Some of that probably has to do with like there's an extra like we call it like a running handkerchief or like an extra stripe of Habano right at the foot. So they'll put just like an extra band of Habano right at the foot under the wrapper, and that helps miraculously with really satiating the palate as soon as you light up.
I just want to show people how golden oily this cigar is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's beautiful. And this is one of those, if you watch the Tuesday show, we talk about this. This is one of those cigars where it's a very oily smoke. There's a lot of creaminess that comes through on the back end, but the smoke itself is dry. And that's something I enjoy in a cigar, because I like how that initial smoke really kind of dries a bit of the palate up, and then you're hit with that creaminess towards the back. I mean, that's one reason why that drool bucket comes out, man. It just gets me frothing when that hits. But yeah,
so
it's oily, it's dry and creamy.
So if you like that, I'll be really interested in your review. So I did not get you some of these before the show. We'll have to figure out how to get some to you. But soon they'll be available at some select retailers. So these are, if we can get the camera to focus. No, there we go. So this is the number 7B broadleaf. And this is a U.S. grown broadleaf. We've been working on getting this tobacco together for about 2 years. So U.S. grown broadleaf is, it's obviously not impossible to get. People get it out of Pennsylvania. This is actual Connecticut broadleaf, Connecticut River Valley. So that's the top tier stuff. And this is a really interesting blend. It is about 90% of New Gentropy, and has a single Viso change. Obviously, it's a Viso broadleaf. So very, very interesting smoke. We just imported a bunch of these for an event that we did in Texas, and we went through a lot of them. It's a prototype cigar here still. We've made like 6,000 variations of this, like no joke. 6,000 variations as we've been going through and refining the blend and making sure that it works in all 9 of our feature botellas, the 9 sizes that we prefer. It has to smoke great in all those, or it doesn't go out the door. So this year's Robusto Extra, I'm going to crack these open, smoke this one with you here, and it'll be a tease because I'll have to send you some, or figure out some way to get them to you, But basically, these, if I were smart, I would have shipped them from Texas. That would have been the only way that you would have got them in time. But so these cigars, we're going to.
You're assuming the post office would actually do its job.
Yeah, well, I recall I've shipped you stuff before, and it does take quite a while. So
it gets lost in that black hole in Denver.
Yeah. But yeah, so we'll be sending these out to retailers very soon. They'll have a very limited portion of these prototype cigars for their customers to try out, and I don't know what kind of deals or anything else they'll be doing on it. I haven't told retailers yet. I usually don't say things in the public before I tell retailers, but retailers, you'll be receiving these soon. So show exclusive. So they'll be getting a bunch of these by mail. So it's going to be interesting because we have quite a few of these prototypes. This one's just barely off of what we're going to end up producing. Again, like it's one Viso difference that we have in this particular cigar. But we have spent 2 years trying to pull together the broadleaf, Connecticut broadleaf for this, and I can answer for why that is here in a moment.
Sure. Question on there: where are you from?
Yeah, so I live in Kansas City in Nicaragua. Nicaragua is my full-time residence, but since we launched the brand, I've been back in the States quite a bit. And I'm kind of trapped here right now in the States because I'm waiting on my passport renewal. So passport expired after like 15 years or something like that. So I have to wait for that to get renewed. But so how do you get a hold of those when available? I'm hoping that shops will start making announcements here. They're probably going to get shipped next week, and they'll be. I don't know what the breakdown will be across all retailers. We have quite a few retailers now, and they've had a tremendous amount of success with Domain Cigars. So we'll be sending this out, and however the retailers want to do it, if they want to do some type of event style deals or some kind of purchase deals or something like that, that's entirely on the retailers. So but we're really grateful, man. We've had some fantastic retailers that have popped up this year. Yeah. And so like going back to broadleaf, like US grown broadleaf, so there's a lot of people are saying like, okay, it's impossible to get a hold of these wrappers now and all this kind of stuff. It's by far absolutely possible. And what the biggest cause of concern is Connecticut River Valley is small, great for growing tobacco. People that grow tobacco there that have knowledge of growing tobacco, a lot of it comes from cigarette tobacco, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Like I've heard people make statements about like, they don't prime tobacco in the States, they stock cut it because of labor. That's not true at all. If we got better yield or higher quality or more delicious tobacco by priming it, we would absolutely be in the field priming it. All the strawberries that you've ever ate from the grocery store that are from the United States, we're generally going to be harvested by hand, generally, right? So like the labor is not really the big concern. What is though is that cigarette tobacco in the United States is a commodity, right? So it is recognized as a commodity. It's traded as a commodity, subsidized as a commodity. So you can only grow a certain amount of tobacco for cigarettes based on the amount of land that you have. So based on the number of acres that you have, you get a stamp for the amount of cigarette tobacco that you're allowed to grow. And that way you don't blow up the commodity market. And if you overgrow 1 year, then the following year you have to grow that much less to make up for the fact that you don't have a tax stamp. So what ends up happening is the handful of people in the Connecticut River Valley that really know how to grow really good tobacco, healthy tobacco, and have the land for it and everything else, they would rather grow cigarette tobacco for the simple fact that cigarette tobacco is a longer term crop. It's guaranteed that they're going to have some profitability out of that crop, even if they have like a massive storm. Like right now as we speak, there's a huge hurricane that's about to wipe out Florida. Really hope everyone that's in Florida, particularly all of our cigar friends out there, are being really safe. But what happens is cigar tobacco you can't buy farmers insurance for, agricultural insurance. You can buy agricultural insurance for cigarette tobacco. So what happens is if a farmer has a piece of land and they can grow cigarette tobacco on that piece of land, they're guaranteed some residual from that crop, even if the crop turns out to be not that great, right? They're guaranteed some amount of pay that they're going to have the agricultural insurance. They're either going to get the crop or they're going to get the payout if something happens to it. That's not true of cigar tobacco. So cigar tobacco, they pretty well need to make sure that crop is entirely going to be purchased at the time that the crop is ready. And cigar tobacco finishes much quicker than cigarette tobacco. Cigarette tobacco finishes over, the course. A lot of people, routinely say cigarette tobacco is like a 13-month crop in North America. It's a really, really much longer term crop, and they're growing the leaves to be, extraordinarily thick. And what happens with cigar tobacco is a lot of times they don't even top the tobacco. That's where we want to break the tops off of the coronas off and the flowers off the top. And the reason why we're doing that is we're causing an immune reaction in the plant, and what it does is it actually thickens up the leaves. Well, in North America, even from the Virginias all the way up to Connecticut River Valley, what you actually see is the tobacco grows so rich and so thick and so healthy that a lot of times you don't even top the tobacco. You leave the tops on. That way the plant slows down growth so that the leaves don't become too thick, because too massively thick and gnarly leaves makes it very difficult to put together cigars as wrapper particularly. And so that's all like part and parcel for why it's so difficult to acquire Connecticut broadleaf. And it's fantastic tobacco. It's really some of the highest quality tobacco you can buy on the market is Connecticut broadleaf. It's delicious. It composites extraordinarily well. It has very dominant and consistent flavoring. So it's a really delicious tobacco. And all that said, the farmers really have to ensure that they're not going to lose that entire crop, that entire growing season. Because when they make that commitment that they're going to grow cigar tobacco for that season, right, they might get 2 or 3 crops out of that particular season, where they would normally be able to get a single crop of cigarette tobacco. That cigarette tobacco is almost always going to yield more money than that cigar tobacco. The cigar tobacco only yields more money if it's prepaid and they lose the crop, right? That's the only scenario where the cigar tobacco might actually yield better results. So the insurance payout is just barely below where a successful cigar tobacco crop is. So stock cutting it is really not a problem, because again, part of the reason why we do priming, where we take like one leaf at a time, one cut, if you will, at a time of each different level of the plant. A big part of the reason why we're doing that is because we're trying to actually thicken up the next leaf for priming. So we've topped the tobacco in Nicaragua, and then we're going through stripping the sand leaves, and then by the time we're harvesting what is going to be the first cut, or what generally goes into seco, the leaves are already so thin and wide, and they've stretched out like crazy, that a lot of times, even that first cut can get damaged and form a lot of damage, because the tobacco just grows so much thinner. So that's a big part of it. So for us to, as a newer factory, I can't really say new anymore. I mean, we've been around now for 2 years, and we've just publicly been talking about it the last 6 months since we launched the brand. It's amazing how if you don't talk about it in the States, no one will ever know what you're doing in Nicaragua. So the farmers, everyone else, they don't really talk to anybody. So we've been operating for quite a long time, but this tobacco in particular was actually this cigar in particular was actually one of the first ones that we blended and put together and worked and reworked, and finally now the wrapper is come to a point where we're hopefully going to be putting it on the market very soon. The cigars are already made, just a question of when we can get all the packaging done and get it shipped.
So like you said, you're a fairly new brand that's out, but your brand's really blown up though from quickly. I mean, was that something that shocked, knowing somebody like yourself who's been in the industry for a while, somebody like me who's been in the industry for a while, you don't really see brands like yours blow up as quickly as they have, where there's a lot of retail shops that are in on what you're doing. They want to be a part of what you're doing, and the consumer base. You've got some rabid fans out there that really love your sticks. Is that something that came to a shock to you, knowing what you know about the business and the industry?
Well, it's something we're grateful for, of course. As far as shocking, I think. It's been a shocking year in cigars. For a lot of companies, there's there's been a lot of very interesting things that have happened this year, particularly with agriculture, with brokering of tobacco, availability of tobacco. There's, the previous 2 years before we launched, there was a ton of acquisitions in like 2022, 2023, and moving onward, there's probably going to be more into the future. And so, we knew we were coming into a little bit of an unstable market. So, my personal response to that is get as organized as possible, right? As have as clear a defined business approach as possible, and that's what we've mostly executed on this year. I would say the volume of retailers and the quality of retailers that we were able to procure was shocking to me, but I guess I shouldn't have been all that shocked, because there's kind of a theme that happens in this business where you think a really maybe a generational cigar shop is going to be really hard to get into. They're an older school shop. They have a lot of connections with some very well-to-do cigar companies, and that they're going to focus on what they know. And I actually haven't found that to be the case at all. That part of the reason why some of these generational cigar shops have been so successful and have had such longevity in the business is because they've been willing to build and form relationships with people that have businesses and concepts that they would find are attractive to them, or that kind of match their interest. Club Humidor is one of those as well. Club Humidor down in San Antonio, it's a prime example of that, where it used to be that you got a call from the Colonel, which was Keith Rumbo's father. He was known as the Colonel in the business, and if you got a call from him and he wanted to buy your cigars, I mean, you were all in, and you're going to be okay. And Keith was one of our first major retailers that put us in 3 locations, and went far and wide with us. And so some of those generational shops that have traded hands through family members over a long period of time, if you go to them and show them the value that you're bringing, and of course we've had multiple years, a half decade now of investment in building our own tobacco supply, building our own factory, launching the brand under those, and building a vertical stack. I think that all of that really spoke to quite a few retailers that, hey, we're going to be around for a while, we're going to have interesting things going on, and so let's build a relationship early. And as far as fans of the company and everything like that, I mean, we're just so incredibly grateful that people are interested in what we're doing, and interested in consuming what we put out there, content on our cigars, or different ideas that we're working on. And definitely with what we're doing with the residency, I mean, that was when we launched the residency, that was the first time that I really had a lot of other cigar makers in the Valley reach out to me and say, like, this is incredible, like this is going to change like how the approach to cigar making and collaboration is going to look in the future, right? And I'd be happy to explain more of that as well. How did I get into the cigar business? Was I born into it? I was not born into it, no. I was definitely I started out as a consumer, just like many of you. It was celebration cigar here or there, birth of my nieces and nephews, and turned into a monthly, weekly thing. Found cigar shops, found friends at cigar shops, found a whole culture and community around cigar smoking. That was conversely right when the bans all started happening, and cigar smoking got banned in so many indoor places, and it ended up like forging this community of people that were all like-minded, and that was how I got into it. That was a little over 17 years ago. And then I worked retail behind the counter at a cigar shop for nearly a decade, part-time job. And it was only when my cybersecurity career really took off that I wasn't able to work continually behind the counter at a cigar shop, and eventually ended up moving to Nicaragua as the junkie that moved to the poppy field. I had no, I had no ambition of this. I had no ambition of this happening. It really happened because the Disla family was just like a second family to me in Esteli, and I lived in Esteli, of course, and Esteban and Anthony and Flor and everyone in his family. They were always and Raul. I mean, they're all just teaching me whatever I wanted to ask or know about cigar making, and one thing led to another. Whenever Esteban decided to part ways with the factory that he helped build due to creative differences, we partnered up almost immediately thereafter. And you want your friend to feel useful, and I could tell creatively he was going through it, and I just spare the moment asked him, well, how about you making a cigar? I didn't know if I was buying one cigar, a box of cigars, or what was happening, and he really had a whole vision for how he always envisioned this happening, because the dreams that he had as a kid, my business partner definitely was, just about born into it in Santiago. I mean, he was in the Dominican Republic. I mean, he was, at ground zero of the cigar boom, of, all these massive changes that happened in the cigar industry. And he became, very passionate about tobacco. And, he, of course, he apprenticed under Sergio Cuevas, from the Cuevas family, an incredible family that took him quite literally off the street and taught him how to be a man. I mean, he really learned a heck of a lot from Sergio Cuevas. So they're always very grateful to the Cuevas family for that.
The Cuevas family are some of the most genuine, nicest people you will ever meet in your life. Louis is such a great dude. Like, I could talk to him forever and ever. And now what his son, is doing out there, he got that bug. And I remember talking to Alec when after his blend dropped, and I was like, "So has the bug bitten you on this?" And he's like, it bit me. It's almost as if my dad and my grandfather were just inside me as I'm working the blends. And all of a sudden, all these ideas just started coming out on what I would want to do. And I get it, and you're starting now. I mean, I've been a cigar smoker since 2000, and I've really been part of the industry since 2005. Oh, and for me now, I'm seeing the kids of a lot of these legends out there. Now they're working. Now they're doing what their grandfathers were doing. They've got hit by the bug, and they're coming out with such different and unique blends out there that just it's mind blowing. What they're doing, but they watch from the best, and it really shows in the craftsmanship and their ideas for what they want to do with the blend, and I can really appreciate that, and I love it. And I love what you guys do at Domain. It's what you have put out from both the blends that I've had are two entirely different cigars that if you took the bands off them and smoke them, I wouldn't and go, these are from, and then I smoked them and you told me they're from the same company, I wouldn't believe it, because they're so different in the dynamics of how they come across on the palate.
And a lot of that's the range of tobacco I think that we were really trying to show, because today it's 17 different varieties that we're putting out, and it's a lot of different tobacco that we grow, and we grow in multiple different regions in Nicaragua. We're interested in very soon, hoping to do a lot more on the wrapper side of the business. It's a heck of a investment for us to get into wrapper, but that would really be the completion of a journey on our brokerage side. And really a lot of times people will work from the brand to agriculture or from agriculture to the brand. And that, sometimes that's by necessity. But Esteban, his approach was always, we need to be able to control all of the elements, control all the varieties. And that's why we refer to ourselves as a third wave cigar maker, is that we can exact quality control across the entire stack, right? We are a supply for tobacco. If there's a cause for concern there, then we can, go right down to the source and figure out what's happening. And that also inspires a lot of creativity if we want to do something different. And that's one of the things that I really commend Esteban for, is, he's in his 40 plus years of cigar making now, and he's still interested in trying new things, experimenting with, different technologies and different approaches. And, I think today, we were able to launch this company, and we're 6 months out as we sit here. And we really have the pedigree of a cigar company that is potentially 10 years out, right? Because we have all of those stones already in place, and it's allowing us to take a much broader approach and do a lot more exciting things in a much more compressed period of time. And that might help with how interested people are to continue to review and look at our products and cigars and see where we're at. And certainly, so in terms of like opportunities, so again, like the Cuevas family gave the Disla family an incredible opportunity to learn and share the passion of tobacco. And Esteban and I, we're not we don't have an ego built up in this, right? It doesn't have to be that every blend that does well coming out of our factory has to be him and I or something like that. And but there are other people in this business that have set behind some gigantuan companies that nobody knows their name, and we know who they are in the Valley, in other words. So what we put together was at the factory. Our factory is called Tabacalera Familia Disla, and we call it TBFD for short. That's actually on the bands. If you're fortunate enough to get one of these here, is TBFD. So Tabacalera Familia Disla, we wanted to create a creative hub that would allow other people, the brightest minds that we could find, and we wanted to extend invitations to them to work with us and collaborate even with other brands. And we of course have our own brand, which we're quite passionate about, and we've taken on multiple projects to create unique tobacco into the future for Domain. But what we wanted to do is go a step further. So what we did was we brought on Raul Disla. Raul Disla had been serving as the chief of production, master blender for Noxa. He's previously worked with AJ and several other people in the Valley, and happens to actually be, of course, Esteban's brother. And he has a very radical style of cigar making and very edgy cigar making. But that said, some really notable brands have relied on him for production, for blending. And they can continue to do so through the residency. But what it allows him to do is actually to create cigars with us, to use our entire vertically integrated enterprise and tweak and work on tobacco. And in the case of Raul, he actually has a part ownership in our brokerage as well. So it directly affects his own personal success whenever he puts together blends with us. But he's also working on tobacco that he's helped inspire, very similar to how Esteban has. And then the other gentleman that we've brought on is Kevin Baxter. And Kevin Baxter, you may be familiar with from his time at Asylum Cigars, but he's actually been a ghost blender of cigars for a long time. And we call him the ghost blender or the palate hitman. And he's one of these guys that has routinely been in the background of cigar companies. He's American. He was actually a former Marine Corps And he's been in tobacco for 20 some odd years, working retail capacity, blending cigars, working with brands, building brands. And Asylum was actually his concept. The 13 that they use in their brand is because that's his lucky number, and he always wears like 13 bracelets. You always see him; he always has all these bracelets on. So he's just got an incredible personality and just a totally different style of putting together a tobacco. So what we've done is we've assembled this team now. So I have this dream team of master blenders, and what I get to do is I get to have all these guys work on incredible tobacco oftentimes that has never been in any cigars on the market, that's been fermented precisely for a particular style of blending. And I get to have these three guys work on this tobacco and come up with unique blends. And we're now putting together different brands that will be for each of those blenders. So, of course, Domain is Esteban and I's, and we're also doing all the creative direction for another brand for Kevin. That'll be out very shortly. And then we're highly interested right now in pursuing a brand for Raul as well, and so he'll have his own brand to blend into. And I feel like that's the best way to keep a master blender really aggressively going after and continuing to make changes and to continuing to evolve what they're doing. There's no better way to do that than having them actually have a brand house to focus on. And so we are manufacturing cigars now for other brands. I'm not at liberty to say which brands those are quite yet. Some of them might be coming out and making those announcements, but that's entirely up to them to make the announcement if they're going to tell people what factory it's coming from. We don't put that condition on anyone, but we have a great website that kind of addresses and breaks down all the different services that we work on in the Valley, and our tobacco brokerage and cigar making and sorting and all this kind of stuff that we do. It's called tbfdsa.com. So I would highly recommend anyone go check that out. And there's a lot more information about the residency on there as well. So yeah, man, it's pretty exciting to see, and I'm smoking through some of the test blends that Kevin's putting together now that are going to come out next year, and you guys are just gonna have to wait and see. I mean, I get to be the lucky guy. That's really
it's a hard job, but somebody has to do it. It's a sacrifice you're willing to make.
Right. Yeah, I have to be the test. You
got to be the guinea pig. Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah. So it's actually it's really cool though, because we send all the tobacco to Kevin. He has his own blending lab in his house, as he has for a decade now, and he blends all the stuff. Of course, him and Raul work exclusively with the residency, so all their cigars come out through us. But he basically sends the recipes down to Nicaragua. We assemble the proofs there, so they go through the entire production process, start to finish, and then we get to go through and smoke the blends and see how they're coming together, and we do the same thing with our customers that come to us for making cigars for their brands. So pretty cool stuff. I mean, we've got one pretty big project, that 70,000 some odd cigar project that's about to start, and it's wild too, because this customer comes to us and they come to us with this insane proposition, right? Dan, when I say Ometempe tobacco, what do you think? What's your first? Because my first reaction to Ometempe tobacco is obvious, but what's your reaction?
Delicious umami earthiness.
Well, my first reaction is scarcity, because it's impossible to get a hold of this.
Well, you see, you're looking at it from the business side of things, and I look at it from the consumer side of things on that. Yeah.
no, it's like impossible to get a hold of. So yeah, we had this guy come to us, and he has like a really tight requirement for Ometepe tobacco, and like we laugh hysterically, right? Because we're like, okay, there's a limited chance that this project's going to come together. But he had this requirement of using this rare tobacco, and luckily because Esteban knows everybody, everybody in the valley, everybody who you can source these things through. He was able to pull together exactly what the guy wanted and do that in a fairly short period of time. And I mean, that's just the difference of like somebody that's lived and worked in that valley for 25 years, back when Nicaragua wasn't exporting 20 million cigars a year. I mean, but he's been in that valley for so long. He just knows how
he knows the people. He knows.
Yeah.
He knows where to go.
Yeah. So we don't grow any Ometepe today, but clearly we've got a couple of people we can contract it through. But yeah, so like there's some really cool things like that. So I really can't wait to see where we're at with manufacturing and production in the next 5 or 10 years. I mean, I really can't wait.
That's awesome. I like that. But I think what makes you stand out is what you talked about earlier, is being you're the one-stop shop for whatever you want, whatever you need. We got you covered. Whether you're looking at wanting to import tobacco in, whether you're looking at having us manufacture your cigars, whether you're looking for just tobacco in general, we've got you covered no matter where you want to go. You're looking for specific tobacco. Maybe hard to find, but
yeah,
you've got 3 individuals there who pretty much know everybody down in Nicaragua, Honduras, Ecuador, that if you want it, we could probably get it.
Yeah, and we have fantastic partners too. I mean, that's a big, you said Ecuador. I mean, that's Oliva Tobacco Company. I mean, just incredible partners. They've been so great with us on so many topics. I mean, from sourcing tobacco and working with us on finishing some of our wrappers, even so there's a lot of things that they do and work on with us that are really unique and really big part of our partnership. So we're super grateful for some of the partnerships that we've been able to put together. I mean, they're just the best scenario that you could wind up with, and that was one of my preconditions for Esteban. I was like, if we're going to do this, we have to make sure that everyone in the valley wants to work with us, right? We're going to be in a position where these partnerships are going to be something that we're going to continue to work with, and we're going to work with these people for decades into the future. And so even trying a lot of that also is like to try to bring more value to our customers, right? Which are, in our case, our direct customers are retailers, right? But ultimately it translates into more value for end users. And there's definitely Boveda is a big part of that story as well. I mean, we've even offered all types of things with Boveda. We're always coming up with new concepts, and they're always like, "Why are you calling us trying to do this?" And we're always just saying, like, we're always just trying to find where we can supply more and more value, to the customer. That's really it.
But you say that with Boveda, but Boveda has people in every position possible, regardless of what you want to do. Somebody works for them that knows how to get it done.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, they're you may be that one-stop shop for the tobacco side. They're the one-stop shop for whatever you're looking for after the manufacturing. They talking to anybody who works with Bova, it's like, well, my specialty is this, and this guy, his specialty is this, and this guy specializes in that. You're looking at doing this. Let me get you a. It's like, wow, you got everybody there just really specializes in on something,
it's true. Like, but I think there's something to be said for a company like that does their product does what their mission is so well, and they're not obligated to go do all those other positions. They don't have to have someone that works exclusively with manufacturers like me, but they do. And I think that's a big indication of like how serious they take quality control, because quality control doesn't stop at product. It goes all the way to service and the point of sale and so on. And those are always the things that we're talking about with them. So it may sound funny, but like we actually talk with them and work with them continuously about just different ideas, like how can we bring more value together to retailers, and how can we and what does that even look like? And they have such sophisticated systems already internally that it's pretty impressive. So like we've even learned some things like working with them about just how to better serve the cigar industry and how to better serve customers together. So it's great partner to work with. And I don't know why any cigar company wouldn't be working with Boveda today. I have no idea why.
So if you figure that out, I mean, it's $1 million.
Yeah. Well, as soon as I figure it out, I'm going to tell Mike Stops for Boveda that but no, I haven't figured it out. I mean, the product does exactly. I'll say this, like for like you probably have a lot of consumers listen to this, obviously, and I would say like more often than not, we are smoking cigars directly out of humidity. I think at a higher frequency than ever before, and I just noticed that the other day where a lot of times like we're coming right out of humidification and we're going right into a smoking experience, and I would say that like in a pre-Boveda world that was exceptionally rare. And of course I use Boveda in my humidor, and I use like in my travel case, which is currently propped underneath my laptop, so you guys can see me better. But in my travel case, I actually use a 65. So I go a little bit drier, and what I noticed was the internal humidity that I like on my cigars is around 62 or so percent before I'm about to start smoking. So I like it a little bit drier on the cigar. So in my travel case, I go with the 65s. And I know people that are in like very dry areas. Sometimes they'll boost up the humidity, and I think a lot of times we are smoking cigars directly out of humidity at a little too high a frequency, where it used to be, and you probably remember this. You've been smoking cigars for a long time, like 10 plus years ago, when there wasn't as much humidification or as many really nice travel accessories. A lot of times, like your cigars were out of humidity for a day or two before you smoked them. I mean, it wasn't terribly uncommon to smoke something that had been out of humidity for a day or two, and it only started to lose flavor like when you get past like 2 days, and it starts to go flat. But depending on what climate you're in.
Well, when I was living in New Mexico, and I talked to the Boveda people out there, because I was going away from a traditional wood humidor because 5% humidity, I just had nothing but problems and warping and cracking, and I'm moving to a Tupperware. And I talked to them, what can I do about it? And so they told me what their recommendation was, and then one of them contacted me that they developed a gel patch to go on the that's glue that goes onto the bottom of the Tupperware on there to help on the regulation, because I got to have two different levels of humidity. I got to have that summertime where we're at 5%, and that wintertime where it's a little bit more, but it's still less at like 30%. And so keep that regulated, about 65, 67% is where I found seemed to work well, where not drying out too quickly, but also giving me what I wanted. And so I tried it out, and I'm like, this works great. And so now that's all I use is that gel patch, that glue on bottom that goes onto the bottom of the Tupperware.
So what do you mean by 5%? You mean 65%?
No, No, so like where I was at New Mexico, the relative humidity was
Oh,
5%.
oh,
You
it
know,
was 5.
so,
Oh, right. The relative,
you
like
know,
the
that desert climate. You
right.
know,
Okay.
I like to keep my stuff 65 to 67 to offset the
Yeah, okay.
dryness
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, but in a wood humidor, it was just I was getting cracking. The wood was
Oh,
cracking.
yeah.
The wood was
Yeah.
warping
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you'd have to constantly be
Yeah.
wetting down the wood to keep it
Yeah.
from cracking, and it didn't matter what I do; it's just too
Yeah.
dry.
Yeah, and
So
that's where I think a lot of people in their like home humidors they started using the PG solution like the polypropylene glycol on the
mhm.
wood, which it's a polypropylene glycol. You can look it up. It's an emulsifier, right? So it's a long chain emulsifier, and when you put it in the wood, it has like two effects, right? It binds with water molecules, but inside of wood, it actually helps to seal, which I wouldn't personally advise unless you're in like a really rare situation like that where, you're getting cracking because like a lot of these humidors nowadays, part of all of the accessories moving to China or Asia or otherwise is that they use cabinet wood on pretty much everything. So cabinet wood is going to be I don't know 19 to 10% dry, like the actual amount of humidity in it, and they're really drying that wood out before they're using it. So you're taking it into like an ambient of 5%, or that's probably not even like 10 or 20 grain humidity on a psychometric chart. So like yeah, that wood is under like a lot of stress. But I feel like yeah, I feel like most people moving to the Coolador or the Tupperware in that situation is probably one of the best moves that you can make, unless you've got like an in-home humidifier or something.
I wish I could afford something like that.
Yeah, like they're yeah. I mean, they probably worth it though at some point. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Living in Nicaragua for so long, even when I come back to the States, I mean, in Kansas City, a lot of times we're 40% humidity or something like that, and the dryness just kills me because that's the thing about like living in Nicaragua, living in Esteli, like you live in wine country, right? So we a lot of us don't actually run any humidors. And I'm guilty as charged. I have like a travel case that I use, but at my house there, I never ran a humidor, and I have like 2 or 3 thousand cigars at the house, and they're just like chilling on a shelf. But we have almost perfect you know temperature and humidity year round to maintain cigars, at least inside of a relatively cool dry office. It's about perfect.
I got that's like my friends that we have that live in the South, Florida, along the coast. It's just like, yeah, I really don't use much or store mine much in humidors or electric humidors. The, it's fine. The humidity is where it's at. And I'm like, must be nice. Uh, I don't know what that's like, but after I moved from New Mexico, even though it is rather dry here, I feel the moisture because I'm not used to it, and I'm like, man, it's
Yeah.
humid, and they're like, oh, it's only like 25%. Yeah, that's too much. It's too much.
Hmm.
I feel it on my skin. I feel my skin's been adapted to that desert climate for so long that once you start feeling that moisture up, it's just like it gets above 20%. I feel it.
Yeah, it's true. It has a big impact on your skin for sure. I mean, I feel it when I come back to the States, just because I've lived down in Nicaragua for 5 years, and you get climatized after maybe I don't know a year or two, and now I finally understand like why you know in like January, December, Nicaragua, you see all these people run around wearing jackets and stuff, and and it's like 60 degrees out, and they're wearing like big big puffers and stuff. You know, like I always thought that was hilarious because I'm like, it feels great out here, but now I get it. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, what else are we going to talk about? We should probably talk about. Should we talk about the brand?
Well, whatever you'd like to talk about, sir. It's just it shows about you, for the people out there who are watching who may not be familiar with the brand out there, just kind of a open opportunity for you to kind of introduce you and the brand to the people out there. I can tell everybody that this is amazing and fantastic and great, but coming from you, they may need to be sold a little bit more.
I'm gonna say the same thing. So
I love the brand. I'll say that. I love the brand. If you haven't smoked it, I highly, highly, highly recommend you go pick some up because they're delicious cigars. They got the Drool Bucket seal of approval from me and Brandy. Brandy was actually the first one to drool, which is unusual. Usually it's me, but it hit her before it hit me.
Right. So we have the new cigar coming out. I haven't announced the name of it yet. Again, this is one VSO off of what it will be. So look for those coming out. 4 sizes. How do you feel about that? We didn't do 9 sizes this time.
I do. I tend to stick to really robustos or toros. I do enjoy it. I do enjoy Coronas a lot. I really get that. Wow. Okay. See, even you like it with the balloons flying. Yeah.
Is that from my computer or yours?
That's from your computer.
Oh, I have no idea. It must be OBS doing something in the background.
I feel that Corona size, I really get that true essence of what the blend is all about out of that. And then I'll go with a smaller size like a nub or a Rothschild just to get the.
I have no idea why there's balloons. We've been talking for like an hour and now there's balloons. I apologize.
Now there's balloons. Those are really the 4 sizes I stick to. I don't really vary from that. But I'm not against other sizes, so I think going 4 sizes is for me as a consumer, I like that because it gives me a bit of a variety of each size of the cigar, what I can expect, from and I don't know what the sizes are you're going with. But those are the 4 sizes I tend to enjoy.
Yeah, so we're going with 4, and it'll be Shaggy Bellicoso, Robusto Extra. It'll be Toro and Robusto Gordo.
Okay,
yeah.
I like that.
Those are. So we didn't do any box press. There's a little bit of damage that happens with wrapper on box press, and not that we were concerned that was going to eat up like too many cigars or too much tobacco or something like that. That wasn't the huge thing. It was just there's potential for additional volume decrease in production. So we negated that on this line. Oddly, though, we have made it in every single size. So we did actually make it. When we started this interview, I was actually smoking the neuroplasticity size, which we won't be making yet. But in the number 7 Bs that are going to ship, that'll be your only chance to get a 6x60 of that cigar for a while. Because we don't have that in production, but we made a lot of them as a test. Again, it's one VSO off of what the actual production will be. But the shops will have a 6x60, so be on the lookout for that. Yeah.
So going with the shaggy foot on that,
Yeah.
you're really trying to showcase out the filler.
Yeah.
With that, so the filler's got something special in it that you really want the people to get the true essence of.
Yeah, so it's a little bit more than that. We wanted you to be able to taste the bunch the way that we tasted in the factory, but we also, like, whenever we're going into production on a cigar that maybe we haven't made in a minute or something like that, we're always going to start by tasting the bunch. And we taste the bunch. We'll taste it with the wrapper, of course. But really, if the bunch is off, then we know that downstream, everything's not going to come together. So we have a really good understanding of what those bunches look like, or just the filler tobacco, right? So I wanted to recreate that experience, and then I also wanted you to be able to, because oftentimes when you do shaggies, they tend to smoke a little bit loose as you open them up. So we put it in Belcosa, so you can have it as tight as you want. And then we called that size His Excellency. It was about to be an event only kind of cigar, but we liked it so much, and it it brought me back to like a lot of cigars that aren't made anymore. There was one brand that used to put like an inch plus shaggies on some of their Vitolas that were like pretty rare and exciting, and they don't make those cigars anymore. The brand actually is like not even around in the same capacity anymore. Unfortunately, they switched countries and manufacturing and everything. But yeah, so I wanted something that would remind me of that, but I also wanted to be able to taste the bunch anywhere I was, right? So if I wasn't at the factory or something like that, I wanted to be able to try that. So so we called it His Excellency because that's the head of state of a republic, and Esteban and I are both from republics. He's from the Dominican Republic. I'm from the United States originally, and so we wanted to be able to have a cigar that was customizable to some degree by the end user. And what turned out to be interesting about it, and why it actually made its way into the final feature sizes, was because there's this really unique thing that happens whenever you peel back the binder and you peel back the wrapper, and those all turn on at the same time. So there's kind of a line on that cigar where the wrapper and the binders all light up at the same time, and it's about 4 tobaccos that all ignite. We have a double binder of 2 different tobaccos, and then we have a little 1/4 inch of extra wrapper, and then the main wrapper gets ignited. So you have 4 tobaccos that all come online, and it has that same transition that like a Grand Perfecto has. If you've smoked very many Grand Perfectos, they transition normally over the course of about 15 minutes. So if you're smoking a Grand Perfecto, normally that little curve that a Grand Perfecto has is about a 15-minute arc before it opens up and you get kind of a full bouquet. So I liked that in Grand Perfecto, and Esteban and Anthony are still very interested in, looking at and pursuing a Grand Perfecto in the future. But His Excellency, that Motella with a 1 inch of shag, it does the exact same thing, but it does it in like a light switch. It goes from no wrapper, no binder, to now the wrapper and binder is ignited and the entire cigar just changed, right? It just totally morphs the cigar. So we really, really like that because it sped up that Grand Perfecto experience. And of course that is more entertaining for the smoker. And because it happens in that first, it's like the same thing that you were saying earlier. Like if it happens in the first inch, I'm paying attention. If it happens, 2-3 inches down there, nobody needs more than an inch, right? But if it happens like after the first inch, right, then you're not really paying as much attention, So noticing that like distinct flavor change in that that really concise period of time is pretty unique. So we decided to go ahead and make it. There were a couple of like Botellas that didn't make the cut. One of them happened by accident. One of them happened entirely by accident. We box pressed like a bunch of 6x60s. Just a mistake at the factory. And they smoked great, actually. It was pretty good. And then like we've contemplated doing like, box press Bellicoso, which is also a bit of a batty idea, right? Like there's a couple of brands that have box press Bellicoso on the market. I don't know that it makes sense. Like, does it really make sense to box press a Bellicoso, right? Because like a Bellicoso has generally like it's supposed to have a little bit better draw, right? A Bellicoso has like a draw that you can decide how open it is, right? But a box press is meant to basically have a looser center fill with a little bit more binding in the corners. So
well, really with the box press, you're also opening up that airflow coming in as you're smoking. So you're changing that chemical composition of how the tobacco burns. So, you're really producing a different, unique flavor than what you're initially going for with the blend on that. But some cigars are the blend's designed specifically box press. And I'm more of a fan of the blends that were designed for a box press than taking the original blend and that formula and then box pressing it, because it becomes a completely different cigar at that point. It's not what you created.
So we ratio blend everything, so we don't blend the size. But the way that we do like ratio blending is pretty unique in that we constantly rework our master blend, which in our case is Robusto Extra. We always are reworking that, and then we ratio out from there. And that does a lot of things with tobacco consumption and consistency of tobacco consumption and demand on our supply chain. But it also yields in a more consistent product than whenever you blend the size. But I mean, like if you look inside of our line, we have Correlation, which Correlation is a box press 5x56, and then we have the Robusto Gordo, which is a 5x56 Parejo or round. And Parejo just means equal in Spanish, right? So it's just equal on both sides. And so it's round, but they smoke wildly different between the two.
Yeah.
If you smoke the two of those back to back, smoke the 5x56 in Parejo first, and you'll notice that you get like a sharp cedar note on it that is way muddled down whenever you go over to the Correlation size. The Correlation has a lot more sweetness if you're smoking it like Neutron, for example. So like there's whole flavor compounds that are different, and the bunching is not tremendously different between the two of those. The bunching is really, really similar. So then like I think like, okay, well, if we take like a cigar like that and instead of it being 56, we make it in 54, which is Bellicoso. If we make it in 54 and we make it into a box press, I'm like, does it just become sweet with like really loose airflow? I don't know, but I've seen some like pretty iconic brands do it. We haven't done it, and I don't think Esteban's put it together in any lines that he's done in the past. I'll have to ask him. But I'm kind of curious because I would really like to try. Like you have like three variables, right? So like you could make the same cigar in Parejo, right? You could make it in just box press, rounded cap, and then you could make it in Bellicoso and see like which of those. Like I guess between the two of those, like one would just be airflow, but I just like
the Bellicoso and the box press would just all be airflow. The way that cigar would smoke and burn, I mean, it would be an entirely different. I mean, it could be its own blend, its own line separately, because it wouldn't smoke or taste anything remotely close to what your others were. Where the box press, it would still, a regular box press would still keep a lot of that essence to it, just with a bit more increase on the airflow. But that Bellicoso, yeah, no, it's a completely different cigar at that point.
Yeah, is it though? I don't know.
I don't think you're going to get the same essence of what you're looking for out of it. It's just going to that increased airflow. I sorry for the people watching. Sorry, we're kind of tobacco geeking right now.
Yeah, we're like nerding out a little bit.
Yeah, but that airflow, it's going to increase that, and the way that burn is going to be, it's going to ignite, especially hotter with internally on that, and it's going to change the complete taste of the cigar out from what the initial essence was.
But that's what I wonder is like, does it actually change the flavor? Because like when we Bellicoso the Parejo, oftentimes because you're modifying airflow, yeah. But like you've already modified the airflow in a box press.
But that box press changes it even more dynamically than it already is.
I think maybe next time we make Neutron, I'll have Esteban put together this experiment and we can smoke it on the show and figure out which one is like if it has like some distinguishing factors about it, because I don't know anyone that's I don't know anyone on the market that if anyone listening to this can help us answer this, is anyone on the market making a cigar in the three of those? I would be highly interested in picking some up. If not, we'll just make some.
I mean, yeah.
But like,
I'm sure there is. I'm just I'm trying to go through and think, but
I can't think of anyone.
I can't think of anywhere it's the same exact cigar on it.
Right. Like
you have, like you have the Muestra de Saka from Steve Saka, but his box press Bellicoso is a completely different. It's named completely different in smokes, even though it is almost essentially the same exact blend as the round and the box press itself.
Yeah, like maybe it's the same blend. Yeah.
Yeah, on that. Yeah. That's about the only thing I can think of on that is that on that, and again, and that box press Bellicoso smokes completely different. It does not taste like the regular Bellicoso or the rounded cigar.
Right. Interesting. Yeah. No, I think we'll just make some and try to figure out what it's doing, because I know Padron is doing that with a couple of cigars.
With their Anniversario series on there.
Yeah.
They've got the the round, the box press, the Bellicoso, and the Bellicoso box press. But and I've smoked all of those Anniversario series ones on there, and they're all the box press Bellicoso is definitely different.
Yeah, but they box press everything, so it's kind of
they do box press an awful lot of what they put out, but that 1926 though, that thing smokes That's one of the few cigars that will it'll give me glassy eyed smoking that one. It's one of the few ones that vitamin N just hits me like whoa.
I don't know. So like one of the I know in box pressing, like one of the reasons why our box press does smoke so different is you get a quite a bit of the wrapper out of that like secondary fermentation. So like anytime you stick tobacco together, whether it's the same tobacco or like multiples of different tobacco, they start compositing because they've previously been in fermentation, like no different than like a beer that has like a little bit of extra yeast in the bottle, like continues to re-ferment whenever it heats up, right? Which is why it's important to keep it relatively cold unless it's been filtered. And what ends up happening is, like with tobacco, is you lay the tobacco together. There's actually a certain polone, it's called Brio polone, that you composite the tobacco together before you go and bell it. and it helps unify the tobacco. So it composites together. It aerates a little bit in that box polone. It's a square polone generally. Some people make it into a circle, but that's your compositing polone, and then you go and put it into bells. So whenever you assemble a cigar, you've probably heard of like the sick period of cigars.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You've heard that mentioned before. So it's a very true thing. So like whenever we're blending and working on tobacco, the first like day or two, it'll probably smoke pretty decent, and then enough time of those tobaccos actually just physically, mechanically being up against each other, it's going to start to exchange acids and proteins in the tobacco, and the tobacco is going to just start to, morph and composite, right? So it's almost like another, fermentation that kind of takes place. I guess it kind of is, right? But whenever you box press something, you're using wood. We have wood panels, and you have wood slants between each cigar, and they're drier, of course. And your wrapper is probably close to, 80%, 90% humid on the surface. So the wrapper has like quite a bit of water in it, and that gets put over the cigar, and you wait about a day for it to lose a little bit of humidity, so it's not super super wet, and then you box press. And when you box press, you're keeping them in the press for about a day or two, depending on how figured you want your box press to be. Like figuring is like how much how dried or how defined do you want the corners to be. You can make the press tighter by giving it less space, so it's highly figured. Like some cigars out there, literally you could use them as like a straight edge to to draw lines on a sheet of paper. So we don't like it that figured ourselves, but like one of the key things that happens is the wood starts to extract humidity from the wrapper, from the binder, and that extraction of humidity greatly slows down the wrapper and that outer binder from taking part in that compositing whenever you lay the cigars in aging. So it says, how long does it take for your tobacco to get aged before going onto the market? So generally, it depends on your grade of tobacco that you're looking at. So like we do, coming out of the field, like it doesn't get classified yet. It has to go to Polones, and then it gets classified. So like from cut 1 to cut 5 and so on. You'll have classification happen out of the Polone. So you got Viso, Seco, Ligero. Your Secos, you might get 18 months. A lot of your Visos, you might go maybe 24, 32, and then some of your Ligeros, you might go out 36 or more. So I'd say on average, they're not spending that time in the Polone, mind you. Like in the Polone, where they're actually in the hands of tobacco, where you see the 4 or 5 leaves that are bound together with some string. Those are called hands, and those hands are generally going to be in fermentation or built into a loaf called a Polone. Maybe Ligeros might go longer. They might go maybe 5-6 months, maybe longer than that. And sometimes like even like Secos will finish much briefer. And then that also depends on like the region that you're working with. So like some regions are going to go quicker, much quicker. Yeah, so that can vary quite a bit, but I would say like a pretty good rule is going to be like 18 to 36 months or more.
And then your post roll aging.
No, yeah, so like post rolling, the cigars again, because they're going through that compositing, like that sick period, right, where they're still compositing, like the acids and proteins in the cigar that like give it texture and everything like that, they're all over the place. So I would say for like probably 2.5 months, it's probably not going to smoke super accurate. or consistently. And then after about 2.5 months, then you start to see the consistency, really start to dial in. And
You do a pulse road check about 90 days then?
yeah, so we smoke all the way through because of a couple of things. Like you can really tell things about construction. You can tell how the drying process is going. Yeah, absolutely. You can learn a lot. So like even smoking the cigars fresh, like we smoke them fresh as they're, which like Neutron for example it smokes good fresh, but it doesn't smoke anything like it does whenever it's aged. I mean, it's not remotely the same cigar whenever it's aged, in my opinion. And I would reckon Esteban would probably echo that as well. But we know what it's supposed to taste like. We know what it's supposed to. So understanding like whether we're proceeding in the right fashion. That cigar, Neutron, for example, 2.5 months, and then it starts to actually smoke properly. I would say everything that we put on the market today is all about 6 months to a year. So like the cigar you're smoking, it's probably rolled more than a year ago. And in aging for a year itself. So after about 2 years or so in an aging room, you really don't have like a whole lot of additional results. Not that we've ever become aware to. I don't know that Esteban's ever become aware of a cigar really moving a whole lot thereafter. 2 years of aging. So we have some stuff from very early when we started the factory, and again, like it just after 6 months, a year out, like it, the cigars. One of the big tests that you can do is like there's these like little humidity probes that you can get, right? And they make them for woodworking, so like they're not going to give you the type of consensus that you might expect from like a hydrometer or something on your humidor. But you can probe the head and the foot of the cigar, right? So if I have one of those probes, I can ram it in here, and I do have one actually in my computer sitting on top of it. It's in my travel case. But basically, you can probe from the foot and from the head, and the cigar is going to dry out generally from the foot to the head, but it also rehumidifies or rehydrates generally from the head to the foot, which is a little bit counterintuitive. The wrapper does breathe a little bit, but you can put those probes, in the cap. You can just punch straight through the cap, and what you're looking for, like ready to smoke, is generally going to be, for me, my preference, about 65, 62 or so is going to be like really close to ready to smoke for me. And whenever you pull a cigar straight out of humidity, it's been in a nice, Boveda controlled humidor, generally within an hour or so. A cigar that has been well aged is going to, drop down, depending on what your ambient humidity is. It's going to drop down to that 60 to 65% within a couple of hours, right? And it'll probably stay there for a while because you don't have a lot of airflow here at the end, and that's where all the grain humidity is going to start collecting. And what you'll see is a cigar that has been fully aged will ride that humidity wave relatively equally. So you could put a probe in the foot, put a probe in the head, and if you see, probably more than a 10% discrepancy in that tobacco's ability to respond to humidity changes, then that could be an indication that the cigar maybe hasn't been aged quite long enough. Again, that it's a little bit difficult to prescribe humidity issues because we're always working in relative humidity. So relative humidity is relative to what? The cyclometric chart, right? So it's relative to a charting system that we've used for keeping, dry foods and things of that nature for a couple hundred years now. And that relative humidity is a little bit hard to be prescriptive of on a cigar if you're not considering what the ambient temperature is and what the ambient humidity is in the room that you're testing. So it could be a little bit touchy, but one of the important things to remember is you know, tobacco itself is hygroscopic, so that means it absorbs ambient humidity like a sponge. So like even whenever we put when we put in like an aging case into the aging room, whenever we put an aging case in there, we're really putting in not, you know, 300 or 400 cigars. We're really putting in like a gallon of water, right? Because it's almost a gallon of water that is going to be relieved from those cigars that they're going to expel over time. And it actually took some education for us to learn exactly, like apply some instrumentation to the room to know, you know, how we should have the room respond when we've put in, you know, 2,000 cigars in one day, because you just put a ton more additional humidity into the room, and the other cigars in the room will actually start to balance out and absorb that humidity as well. So it was really fascinating. We actually had this scenario play out where we recorded Esteban running the aging room and could actually see him making changes throughout the day, and he just knows what the tobacco should feel like so well that he goes around with his hand, touches the end of the tobacco, touches the end of the cigar, feels it, and knows exactly whether the room should come up or down based on touch alone. And you can train your hands to do that. I mean, just like a chef knows exactly when that steak is done, he knows exactly how that cigar is meant to feel at the proper hydration. Your cigars are ready to smoke when buying them, or should they be aged a little bit? No, they're ready to smoke. Yeah, they should definitely smoke all of them. See if I care. But no, they're absolutely ready to smoke. We actually ship everything ready to smoke. There used to be something that people would do called like cabinet selection in cigars, and it was like a little counterintuitive. Like people would do these cabinet selections where they like wouldn't put them in cellos or anything like that, and they would do like a paper wrap on them. And I always thought that was kind of a cool idea that maybe we want to address in the future with some vintage releases. I don't know. I mean, what's your thought, Dan? Like on like cabinet series releases, you remember those? Like whenever they were really popular, and I haven't seen good cabinet releases in a long time.
Yeah, they were a cool concept to do, you know, and they just, you know, like LFD used to do their cabinet selection, you know, when they were not as like a regular line run, but when they were kind of like their yearly release run where they were limited edition on the cabinet selection that they did. I liked them. I always thought that those were. I thought it was a great concept because one, it is a limited edition. You are getting something that's different and unique in how it's presented to you on that. So I'm a fan, but I'm also a fan of uniqueness too, and the marketing side of how you're presenting the cigar. Some people don't care, but I think a lot of people do, because when you walk into that humidor, you've got the big displays of a lot of the brands out there, and you really get drawn to it. So having something different to a uniqueness to the marketing ad draws your attention, draws your eyes over to like, oh, what's this?
Yeah, it's tough because like, especially like in a retail environment. I mean, retailers will definitely tell you like they want to see your cigars in cellophane, right? And I like cellophane too. Like cellophane it's good for the cigars, it's good for the customer. There's no reason to not cello, right? But
it keeps people's greasy hands off the cigars, because everybody's going to be touching and picking up and looking. In the cellophane, it adds a bit of protection against people.
Yeah, I agree. So there's that element. It breathes. Have we ever talked about like how to tell if you have good cellophane or bad cellophane?
No, you have not brought that up. Go ahead.
There's a difference in cellophane. It's a pretty easy test. So like cellophane breathes, it really does, and you can tell whenever you have good cellophane or bad cellophane by doing a very simple test. You pull the cellophane off. This is like a party trick. Now I'm doing party tricks, right? But you literally cut the end of it off, like removing your cigar, and then you blow through it, like do the hot air blow. And you have a little bit. It might be hard to see on camera here, but you have a hot air blow through it, and then you should actually be able to feel the cellophane. You should actually be able to feel that it gets a little bit warmer on the surface, and that's from the humidity from your expelling air through your lungs. If you can feel that humidity, that temperature change through it, then the cellophane will breathe. If you have a cellophane that is petroleum based, right, and the cellophane is not based on corn, like these are corn cellos that we buy, it's a nicer cellophane. But if you have the plastic style, then it'll be mostly insulated, and you won't see any effect or change on the outside. So it actually it's very similar to how like the Boveda works, right?
Yeah.
Where like if you take like a sheet of like paper, like printer paper, and roll that and do that same breathing test, like you'll actually see that it actually breathes humidity. But you want your cello to breathe humidity, right? That's the best case scenario, so that it's not trapping it in there. Same thing with our boxes. Like we want the boxes to always be able to breathe, so that whenever they come into the retail environment, that they can acclimate to the humidor that they're going to serve in, right? So it's really important that the box be able to actually breathe and exchange humidity too. But yeah, I mean, so like, but like if you're going to do a cabinet series, you kind of got to do it without the cellophane, right? Like, how could you do a cabinet series with cellophane?
I don't think you can. The cabinet series, because it's one, you're showcasing the uniqueness of what's in there. So you really, it's that eye appeal of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like if you compare it to like cabinet wines, like a lot of times like cabinet wines are like not even labeled, and you're buying them by the case, and they're and it's a little bit counterintuitive because like aren't cabinet wines like they're extra young, so they have to be aged, right? So like they're meant to like finish out their aging process, with or in your cellar, right? I think is like a one of the reasons why like a wine drinker would look for a cabinet wine. Not that tobacco and wine have like there's a lot of vernacular similarities, but like there's a lot of dissimilarities whenever we look at cigar production and finishing and so on. Somebody asked earlier whether the cigars are ready to smoke. Yeah, they're absolutely ready to smoke. But there's certainly some wineries that sell wine that they'll tell you flat out it's not ready to drink, which I always thought was right.
Exactly.
It's like, yeah, we'll sell it to you, but don't drink it for
5 years.
Yeah.
5 years to wait on this, and then it may be good to go.
Yeah,
don't know. We couldn't tell you, but that's a guesstimate.
It'd be pretty hard to be a wine fan if you really like to drink it. Yeah.
It is. Yeah, I like the cabinets. They're great. LF. That was one of the big selling points of LFD back in the day, was the cabinet selection that they put out once a year.
Yeah.
And
I used to love those.
Yeah, and those were something that you used to, as a consumer, you would wait for, because, they had those strategic releases throughout the year of, okay, the Connecticut, the Oscuro, the Habano, the all the way down, that they kind of they were staggered throughout coming throughout the year. So it was like, okay, it's like, well, I know that this quarter of the year, this is when it's coming out, and this one's my favorite. So it really got you amped up and hyped, and then they kind of made it it's a regular production run cigar now. So it kind of loses that cabinet selection feel that they used to have, because they were fantastic.
Yeah. It's a concept that I've seen like people have tried to rehash it, but yeah, I think you have to break certain like rules that we kind of have in place like around retail now, like UPCs, for example. Like, okay, now you don't have a cello, so how are you going to UPC it? And then if you're going no cellos, and then you're going in a box, like, okay, do you ship them aged, ready to smoke, or are you shipping them?
I think now they'd have to be aged, ready to smoke. You couldn't let them go through that process in the cabinet the way it is. Or that you can't do the cellos. You could probably do tubos.
Well, there's still some brands that don't age anything before they ship, and like a couple of them that will really surprise you that they don't age anything before they ship. And those are the brands that retailers always are telling you like they improve greatly if you like lay them down for a period of time. Yeah,
right. It's like you smoke it and like, oh, you're gonna buy it. Yeah, let it sit for a couple months because it's still young. That. If that's what I hear from a tobacconist at a shop, that it's still young, I'm not picking it up. But it's like, good. I don't need it. I don't want. I'm not looking to have this sit for 4 or 5 months in the humidor because it's not ready to go. Just because they're in a rush to get product on shelves. That I'm not interested in. And especially, and you can tell when you taste a cigar too. It just like. It's just not there yet, and it's like, for me, that's a bummer, and I smoke a cigar and I'm like, there's something there, but it's just not there.
Yeah. I think that's like the most polite way to put it. I think when I've experienced that, a lot of times, like whenever I've used that like vernacular, like it tastes young or something, is normally like whenever I've smoked like 2 or 3 of them, and like those 2 or 3 that I smoked inside of like a week or something, like maybe even a shorter period of time, like a day or 2, and they all smoke different. Like, to me, that's like, okay, the cigar is still sick, right? Like it's still in that sick phase, like where, again, like the acids and the proteins and sugars and everything are still like moving around like crazy in it, and it hasn't acclimated. And that used to be the case too, like before people were using Boveda for shipping, right, for point of service, which I believe it helps greatly with this, and that when I smoke something at the factory and then I fly it to the United States and I receive the shipment on the other side, and it's still smoking the same way that it did at the factory where I was just with it, 10, 20 days ago, that's a big indication to me that what Boveda is doing is worth pursuing, like as a cigar maker.
I think so, but you're also countering in how long is that going to sit in customs for as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Having that protection in that, especially if it gets caught up for 2 or 3 months in customs, it's going to make all the difference in the world on the cigar.
Well, if it's caught up for 2 or 3 months in customs, then we got some other things going on. But I've seen some extended periods of time. So like a lot of people don't know that like the FDA is still checking all cigar packages. And so like we have to clear not only for federal excise tax, but the FDA also has to clear cigar packages now still. And there's a couple of times a year where they receive all these medical shipments from overseas. So like you're in the same queue as like the IV packs and stuff like this, right? That are coming from Asia or coming from India or wherever else, And so, like, there's a couple of times a year where it gets like particularly slow, like, and we might see 10 days, but that's yeah, they don't like. They really try not to warehouse anything. And if you have to pay for warehousing, it's so expensive. Like if your importer of record doesn't like send in the paperwork and getting customs has to hold it onto it for some reason, yeah, you never want to be there. That's no man's land for cigars. So, um, but yeah, I don't know. I definitely there's definitely some brands that are not utilizing things like boba and they're not aging cigars, and a lot of them are first wave cigar makers, right? Very pretty old school in like how they address like cigar making, and I would say that for me, like when I put like my consumer experience hat on, those were always the cigars that improved the most when you laid them down for a long period of time. And then conversely, and a lot of people are not are not fully going to appreciate what I'm saying here, but aromatic cigars. So like if they've done some barrel aging or something like that on the cigars, I've noticed that those improve dramatically with like really extended aging periods. I don't know. I don't know if that has something to do with like the alcohol content of the barrel aging that they're doing, or like what's going on there. But it seems like they improve tremendously. There's a couple of cigars in the market that are notoriously barrel aged that need like 2 years.
I find, especially with like a tobacco like Perique, that just letting it sit out for a day or two does wonders to the cigar. Uh,
Oh, really? Like just dry boxing it for a day or two?
kind of like dry boxing it, yeah. Just letting it sit out for a couple days. It just, it where it's still got that pliability to it, but it's not rough.
Yeah.
You're not hearing cracking, but just getting out there. Perique's one of those that just seems like it smokes better. It cuts back on especially on that a lot of that barrel harshness on the smoke as well. So you really get to taste more of that tobacco from it because it's already a wet tobacco as is. When it's put in and it's manufactured, and so that's one of those things I've done with Periques is just let it sit out for a couple days, and then it just seems like it hits that point on pliability where it's like okay, no cracking, but I get that pliability back. All right, it's ready to smoke on that, and it doesn't feel as wet. It's just for me that's kind of what I do on cigars like that, especially notorious tobaccos that are notoriously wet by nature, just because of how they age it, aging in that barrel.
Yeah, it's it's pretty interesting, and there's been a lot more aromatic cigars on the market.
But you get a lot more. You get a lot of those blenders out there that are kind of also blending with traditional pipe tobaccos that are already aromatic as is to add that extra essence to it. So, I haven't had that kind of experience with those types of cigars. It's just more of the naturally wet tobaccos out there like Perique that just seem like all right, it smokes harsh. I'm really picking up more of that barrel char coming through. It's harsh, and to smooth that out because it's a really good tobacco when it's smoked right.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I think like so. Yeah, but you're right. Brink is very wet whenever it's laid down. And I think there's been more like kind of what I refer to as like second wave direction commission
Hi,
work
Mimi.
on. There's been a lot more work on aromatic cigars, which is interesting. We had someone come to us for a cigar making at the factory, and they wanted to do a bunch of flavored cigars and stuff like that. And they asked us if we could do it. Like, yeah, we absolutely could do it. Do we want to be attached to it? Not really. But it's kind of interesting because like I'm not sure where I lie on the issue of like aromatic cigars. Does it make it a gastronomic experience, or is it still an oral factor experience? Right. So
No,
it's
I put the aromatics kind of up high there in the overall experience because it does add to the cigar, but I think it depends on what you're trying to achieve blend wise on the cigar because a cigar that's kind of got a dull blend but is very aromatic is for a lot of people I think is a turnoff. But when you have that flavorful on the palate cigar, adding in with that beautiful aromatics, it adds positivity to that experience. At least for me, and I think that you know for I think everybody's different, but I think a lot of seasoned smokers kind of feel that same way, where it's like it's a positive to the experience if the blend is good and your balloons are going off
I
again.
don't know why I have balloons. I have no idea why.
I'm just going to take it that every time the balloons go off, your computer's agreeing with me.
I don't, yeah, we'll just go with that. I don't know. I don't know if there's like something set up in OBS. I have no idea. Uh, yeah, no, it's like three of the best selling cigars in the market right now are aromatic, and it's yeah, it's kind of mystifying. I wouldn't expect it, but maybe it's also just like the number of like new um, new smokers or new entries to the market that are looking for something closer to a gastronomic experience that isn't coated with sugar. You know,
Yeah.
and like the sugar thing too. Like that's an interesting thing too because of course we're working on Connecticut. We like Connecticut, but a lot of times it's not served really well. Um, and it feels like matchy match all the time. Do you smoke any Connecticut?
Yeah, I smoke Connecticut's.
Like by
I'm
choice, not as a review.
yeah, I will smoke anything. I there's really nothing off limits to me. I know what I like on personal smoke, so I tend to stick with
Yeah,
that. But there's quite a few Connecticut's out there that I like that are very flavorful, and they're not that Connecticut that people you want to have with your morning. They do pack more of a punch.
right,
They are a bit more fuller bodied
right.
Connecticut's. And so I like those far more than more of the milder blended Connecticut's out there. And I know that most Connecticut's are blended for that more milder palate, more for your morning smoke. But I tend to gravitate to the Connecticut's that are more of your anytime smoke.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's the thing about like a light cigar or like a medium body. Um, yeah, it should be smokable anytime, and you should still be able to extract the flavor out of it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Um,
maybe you're right that a lot of those people that the aromatics are hookah smokers, that are coming into smoking cigars and it's
yeah, yeah. Well, and I think it's also like there's certain states that are trying to do something with the topping cigars, where they're putting the sugaring flavoring type of thing on the cigar. Um, and there's one brand that we all know that does that's the biggest in that. Um, but I don't think the same thing applies for like barrel aging cigars. So I think it might
no,
be a workaround, right? Like, I don't think any states have banned like barrel aged cigars.
no, I
So
haven't heard of any any barrel aging. It's more
right,
so the the flavored cigar stuff is what they're going after, which is where that affects some of those brands out there that throw the chemicals or the spray
yeah,
to give it that aromatics. But I think that that natural. I'm into the natural aromatics from the blending than I am from. I don't smoke any of the stuff, the sprayed on. chemical stuff or any of the sweet tip cigars.
Right.
That's not what I'm into. Acid. I'm not a fan of the acid cigars. Those I don't smoke. But the natural aromatics from the blending are what I'm into. Mixing up, working that blend to get a certain type of aromatic that you're looking for in a cigar. Those that use traditional pipe tobaccos for in the blending to get a certain aromatic. I'm into that. I like that. But the spraying, the chemicals, the sweet tips, adding anything to a cigar to me doesn't make it a cigar anymore.
Right.
If you can produce the flavor you're looking for through the blend, then I'm fine with that. And I think that's what a lot of those states are shutting down is don't put anything on it. If you're saying that this smells like strawberry fields, well, then do it through the blending and what you're doing.
Right. Yeah. So going back to Connecticut, yes, California's banned flavor cigars came here. Yeah, and that's where I think like a lot of like the barrel aged cigars are going to have a lot of success, and Connecticut's are going to have a lot of success. Yeah. So on Connecticut cigars, you like the parchment paper Connecticut or the like yellow corn style Connecticut?
The yellow corn style.
The yellow corn style. Okay, I'm gonna grab a drink real quick. Yeah, the yellow corn style I think is the stuff.
That yellow corn, the starchiness, the sugariness is way more prevalent with the again, that natural sweet flavor that you're looking for.
Yeah.
That parchment paper, it just to me it smokes like parchment paper. It's just bland. Oh, we lost you. Yeah, we lost you. There you go.
Lost you out here real quick. Sorry, I might have the cable or something. So,
Mimi. There are a few brands out there that do have a fuller bodied Connecticut.
Yeah.
And I tend to gravitate towards those more just because I kind of want that punch. I like that. I like that. That they ramped up a lot of the Lajero, so it does pop a bit more. You get more. There's more of that pepper and spice they've provided through the cigar, and I like that. Nothing wrong with a regular Connecticut. I'm fine with smoking a regular Connecticut if it's flavorful.
Yeah. I mean, we're working on quite a bit of Connecticut right now. I mean, Kevin's working on some Connecticut's that are incredible, and he's using our new tobacco. We have a new tobacco called Vanguard Aegis, which it was our first year getting through a full production crop on this tobacco, and it just turned out incredible. It's a Carrillo based Pro Foundation tobacco. We think we can develop it into a wrapper at some point in the not too distant future, but absolutely beautiful spice and nose on the tobacco, and he's been putting that together with Connecticut in a really unique way, and it has just a totally different personality midway through the cigar. I mean, the cigar just like completely changes, and you wonder how he does it, and then you look through his blending notes, and it becomes a little bit more obvious. So you guys, thanks. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of places to find him. He might even have some links in his partners that you might be able to buy the cigars from.
Yeah, luxury sells them, and there's that's who I go through for my purchases on them. I don't have a promo code available with luxury, but they are who I tend to buy a lot of product through, and they sell in all the states and ship, so it works. I know.
Yeah,
I know. Maybe you've got connections with luxury, so you can definitely probably make that happen.
Yeah, one of the things that keeps happening now with Connecticut Shade, well, like there's two things about Connecticut Shade I'm going to talk to you about, but like, so like Ecuador, um, Connecticut Shade, which is like not really a thing in like Ecuador. It's like nobody really does like shade Connecticut Shade in Ecuador. It just has so much cloud cover all the time that it's just like sun grown kind of. But what a lot of people started doing to like do that full bodied effect is they basically blend a, like medium mild kind of broadleaf, and then they use broadleaf in the binder, and then they slap a Connecticut Shade over top of it, and that's become pretty pervasive in making like that full body Connecticut. And a lot of times, whenever like the guys that smoke like European smokers and stuff like that are used to smoking, Dominican pilotos and different stuff like that. I mean, they're like pretty displeased with that experience because they don't care for the mouthfeel of that broadleaf whatsoever. And then like the same thing is happening right now with Sumatra, right? Like everyone's doing that with Sumatra. We've done it in like test blends, and it smokes good, but it's really like it feels like we're just masking the fact that Sumatra is this, relatively disinteresting thing to work with as a wrapper, right? But I've tasted like a handful of versions. Like I definitely like the way that like Pete handles Sumatra, but like he also handles it by throwing broadleaf in the filler. And I think he's talked about that publicly.
That's how a lot of these brands now are blending the are blending Sumatras now, because Sumatra is definitely an acquired taste for a lot of people, and a lot of people don't like that bitterness from the Sumatra. So adding that broadleaf in really really kind of cuts that bitterness out of it. I'm also seeing a lot using San Andreas as your binder to go with the broadleaf filler in with that to really cut that bitterness out and to bring the sweetness in.
Yeah. And then the other thing about like Connecticut shade is you don't really see a lot of it coming from Connecticut anymore.
No,
so it kind of ties into like what I was talking about with the broadleaf, but it's like if you're gonna do Connecticut anything, right, just because of those financial concerns and everything, like you're pretty much gonna make sure that you're sun growing it, and you're not gonna shade grow it. And the only reason that even like shade growing it even works there really well is because the tobacco grows so damn thick. It's already cloud covered all the time. Like when you go there, it's not like it has tons and tons of direct sunlight continuously, but Pennsylvania does. And that's part of the reason why Pennsylvania smokes. I would say like certain like Secos. The Secos smoke a heck of a lot milder. The Secos definitely smoke a heck of a lot. The Visos are quite a bit like more punchy. And then the Ligeros are like just all get out. I mean, they're just
I don't think a lot of people who consider themselves full-bodied smokers out there have really experienced like Pennsylvania, a real blended to Pennsylvania tobacco, because it is very heavy on the palate, a very harsher. It is a harsher smoke.
Yeah.
And again, it's one of those that it's blended to cut a lot of that down. Because even traditional, really full-bodied smokers, don't really smoke traditionally Pennsylvania blended cigar. And again, and that's one that they cut that filler with. They cut that filler with a lot tamer tobacco to cut that harshness down.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely always a lot of offsetting in blends, but I think what I'm getting at is like I just don't see great representations of Connecticut's anymore, right?
No,
and
we're not.
like they're and it's like similar things like with Sumatra. It's like make it something that we enjoy, right? Like make it something, but it's also like there's a lot of people buying Connecticut. A lot of people buying Connecticut cigars, and a lot of people that only smoke. Yeah, only smoke them. And for retailers, like how do you convince them to put more than like 5 of them on the shelf, because like the 5 that are there like just continuously sell, and then like every time they try one of these like full body Connecticut's that are like made for guys like you and I that are totally happy sitting down and smoking broadleaf in San Andreas all day long and all night long and Habanos and all that, like, yeah, okay, well, the cigar maker makes something that we like, right? And we buy it twice. And then, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like I've debated this. Like, do I make Sumatras and Connecticut's that that I like as a full body, full palate smoker, or do I embrace the fact that I need like a medium wide body, and because like if not, like the cigar is not going to be commercially viable. Like they just like that's the crux of the not to drop another brand name, but but that's like the crux of the situation is that if we blend something and put it on the market and we have, right. We've made Connecticut's that I really like that are strong as balls and do all these different tricks and backflips, right? But like, are you and I really going to walk into the cigar lounge and pick up that cigar versus the Neutron that we know is going to hit the spot?
Yeah, probably not. But that's where the marketing comes in to push those full-bodied smokers to something like that, And also, you also got to rely on your retail partners to be able to tell their known fuller-bodied smokers, hey, yeah, it's a Connecticut, but this is a fuller-bodied stick. This is a medium full to a low full bodied on this, because for me, if I'm unaware and I just see it's a Connecticut, it's probably not something I'm going to pick up. But if I go in knowing or having a retail partner tell me, hey, I know you're a fuller bodied smoke, this is a fuller bodied Connecticut, then yeah, that's something I'll pick up. But, for the masses out there, though, for every one of you and me out there, there's 10 who won't smoke it because that's not the type of Connecticut they're looking for. They're looking for that mild to medium Connecticut. So, is it viable for a retailer to bring something in that 1 out of every 10 people are going to buy looking for a Connecticut? I don't know. That's something that the retailer would have to figure out, knowing that it's probably going to sit on the shelf when I got, I may only sell 1 a week and it's going to be the same person.
Yeah. Well, I never don't look forward to like smoking a cigar, or like I live for this shit. But like when because I have the ability to like make what I want, right? Or we have the ability to like target like whatever we desire to make in the future, right? I don't know that there's a lot of value in investing in medium and light from a commercial standpoint. Investing in medium and light cigars, like you need people that are going to smoke full-bodied cigars that smoke every day regularly to be interested in talking about what you're doing and your brand and everything else, right? But some of your highest volume smokers are going to be like light and mid smokers, and So like, yeah, so that's where like we have to figure out like what that balance is, because like instinctively, like I want to make something that you and I are gonna smoke here on the podcast and be like, holy shit, this is a Connecticut that's really good. But then it's like, it's just kind of like it's just doing a bar trick at that point, right? Like
that's something like you put out as a limited release, a limited run out there.
Right, okay.
Not something that would be your core line setting. It's just like, okay, this is a limited run of this cigar. Right. And if you did it once a year, hey, we put this out once a year type thing.
Yeah.
That's where something like that would come in, that you could sell that to a retailer. You could, okay, here it is. But then you build that branding that people look forward to. The once a year you drop that limited run. That like it, Yeah, but that's where I see it being viable, but not as a core, not as something as a core line. I just don't see that's something that's gonna make a difference, for a retailer. Like, I got limited shelf space, so I don't want something that's gonna sit. But knowing something that's limited, that you could sell that to retailers and you could sell that to your consumers.
Yeah, but I mean, but is it limited though? Because like I have the tobacco, like I could make a lot more.
You could make it, of course.
I could make it, like it just,
I know you could make it, but
I would almost rather make something that that people that love that cigar are going to love. And even it's definitely like when a lot of cigar makers are making and putting together full body cigars, and that's what they smoke and that's what they enjoy and everything like that. And then like whenever it comes around to their Connecticut, they either bastardize it and make it something that they enjoy, that their customer that would normally want Connecticut necessarily doesn't care all that much about, right? Too big of flavors, too punchy, yada yada. Like, and so like it's almost like I mean some of the Connecticut's that Kevin's putting together right now are really, really viable. Like they're really good. Are they the type of cigars that I would smoke every day? No, but I also wouldn't smoke Cubans every day if you put them in front of me. I really just wouldn't care about them. But these cigars smoke like really, really close to that style, that sharpness of tobacco, right? And that's going to be like wholly appealing to a whole lot of people. But so like Esteban's always trying to put together a Connecticut that is like impressive to Floor. So Floor, his wife, always is smoking Connecticut, right? So she loves Connecticut. She's always looking for a Connecticut, and he's been on like a 20+ year journey to make the perfect Connecticut for her. So at some point we'll have one that's like she like is absolutely in love with. But thanks for stopping by.
Thanks, Troy. Appreciate you, brother.
But yeah, I don't know. So it's it's definitely, I don't know, probably not something we're going to solve in this conversation. But
no, it won't. I mean, I'd smoke it, but that's me. But I'm one person that, the question is, can I talk 10 people into saying they'd buy that? And that's and most, and we all know 10 Connecticut smokers that love Connecticut's, but it's not something that they would smoke.
Yeah.
So it's getting to the masses out there, and we just don't have. That's a harder sell, out there. Yeah. Could I sell it to fuller-bodied smokers? For sure, but like I said, for every one fuller-bodied smoker, there's 10 that wouldn't.
We gotta do something unique, especially on the aromatic side, because you got you've got all these newer smokers, and then you've got all the flavored cigar bands. So we've got to bind the two of these together in the ultimate Connecticut. We got to do a grass finished Connecticut. So it's aged in between fresh cut grass. It might work. Just hear me out, okay? This is a product development session. This is no longer a podcast, okay? So we're gonna do the first ever barrel grass aged Connecticut. we're gonna release it on the 505 Cigar Review.
I mean, I'm down for it.
All right, we'll make that the LE. Is it a cigar review anymore? Because you don't review cigars anymore.
No, but it's it's how everything's been branded for the last 6 years. Is cigar review. And you do get the once a month Tuesday show, so you are getting at least one review out of me, for once a month. But other than that, no, it's the it's basically the interview, that and then the one thing that it seems everybody looks forward from me is that when I drop my top 10 list, that's it that I got manufacturers hitting me up making cigars. And I've had 4 of them hit me up making cigars wanting to be on the top 10 list, trying to hit my palate in what they're manufacturing.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's
so
good.
I'm like, all right. One has spent the last 2 years trying to make my top 10 list and putting out their cigars, trying to get on there. And, the last 2 years, they've made the honorable mention list, but they haven't made the top 10. I'm like, you're almost there. You're almost there.
Right.
It's a good cigar. It's just there's so much that comes out, and I smoke so much stuff. When I go to the mailbox every Saturday, the post office. I've got 2 or 3 of the lock boxes that they've had to put stuff in that just comes in the mail. I smoke so much stuff out there that if you really at this point now you got to make something that stands out to me that I'm like, dang, that all right, I smoke it and I'm like, okay, all right, well, you got something there. And then me going and making multiple purchases, then now you're on to something that's going to get me there.
It's definitely like my time living in Esteli, like it was not uncommon that like a lot of times I got thrust into blending sessions or something like that, and I would say like the palates are different in Central America, and like the food that we eat down there is different, the flavors are different, and that's what is unique about Esteban is like he's Dominican, but he grew up like with a fairly heavily French inspired culture and the cuisine, and like he's the type of person that like will rarely eat a cheeseburger or something like that. I mean, he really, lavishes in good food, right? Well prepared, clean. Like his diet every morning is like he eats eggs from the farm, like from Isabella, his farm, and he's we have cows and goats and pigs and like everything out there like self-sustaining. So he really likes that farm to table style living, and so like his palate is even wildly different from a lot of Nicaraguan palates. But I think it is difficult for some of the blenders that maybe don't know like what our diet is, what our drinks of choice are, and all that kind of stuff. I think that weighs in heavily on blending.
That one of the manufacturers, he lives about 35 minutes from me, and so I've been working with him on one of his newer blends coming out, and he's like the manufacturer told him, it's like it's too strong, and he goes, you don't know American palates and what they want. Like
Yeah.
that, they want knock your socks off, and
Yeah.
and
It's an
so
element. Yeah.
and for them, that's one of those things they don't grasp that they want that full body, they want that knock your socks off, but they want the flavor there too. And
Yeah.
so it's like, well, I can't get. It's like, well, I don't know about the flavor with the strength, and it's like you can do it, and and
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, you're on to say. And I told him, I go, you got to tell him he's onto it. He's like he's got it, that he's getting it down. He just needs a little tweak here and there, and I think he's got it. He's got the full body down. He's getting the
Yeah.
flavor there. So whatever tweak he needs to make, and he's getting there with it. It's just trying to get them to, as he said, it's trying to get them to understand that you can make that. It's just wrapping it around, because that's not how their palettes are designed.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Like we had a customer come to us, and they wanted something that was like really heavy black pepper, right? And so we, of course, made something that was really heavy black pepper. But Esteban is always excellent at balancing his blends, right? So he knows, like, the black pepper note is there, like it's distinctly there. It's nicely illustrated in the blend, on the palette, on the retro. And the customer comes back and they're like, no, we need like way more pepper. Like we want. So what they want is sharp pepper. They want really high in the blend. And he reblends this, and literally the cigar is like making me sneeze, like while I'm smoking the blend. And it's just having that kind of contortion effect, like if you had just whiffed black pepper, and that's also something that's unique too. Like I would say that's like a distinctly North American thing, because a lot of times like we think of black pepper in North America as being cold ground black pepper, right? And like hot ground black pepper. Like, so in New Gentropy, like we put black pepper on there as like a tasting note, and there's a little bit of like rounded off black pepper in the blend, as you would describe in North America. But what I really mean whenever I'm looking for black pepper in the blend is I'm really meaning like roasted black pepper, right? So like if you ever take just like on your stove at home, you take like a tablespoon or two of black peppercorns, and just put your skillet to like medium heat, and then just roast those for like 15-20 minutes, right? And they'll actually start like popping, and the oils of the black pepper start to come out, and they start to waft off of the black pepper, right? If you do that experiment, like actually like waft that, kind of in your face, and all that is very much the essence of black pepper that we're looking for, and that's much less sharp. It's a way
it's the thing with the new Gentropy on there, because I can't speak.
It's close.
On that, that's the one thing that really I think is one of the unique factors, is that fresh black peppercorn, that comes through on that. And when you were on with us on the Tuesday show and we smoked that was one of the things that I really picked out on there, was that fresh. It had that freshness on it. Is I think what makes that cigar stand out from any other cigar out there, is that I'm getting that fresh black peppercorn. It's just that it's there, and it's a beautiful taste to the cigar.
Yeah.
I mean, it's why I've made multiple rebuys, and why I smoke that cigar a lot, is because it's one of my favorite flavors. And I said, if you can master getting that fresh black pepper taste, you've sold me on the cigar. Because you either get hit with that, snorting lines of black pepper, or you get hit with that beautiful fresh pepper. And that beautiful fresh pepper, that's, that's having a master blender like you have, who can balance that out to give you that type of flavor you want. I don't mind, the snorting lines, but again, when you
Black pepper.
balance the cigar beautifully.
Someone's gonna clip this.
Look, AJ made a cigar where he had out, and it's one of the heaviest, fullest body cigars I've ever smoked. Like, I did the retro, and it was the first half was snorting lines of black pepper. The second half was snorting lines of cinnamon. It was just so heavy, like it was putting tears in my eyes going through that retro. Like, I'm just like, dang, man, this is heavy duty, and it's heavy duty for me.
Did you smoke that one that Garofalo said was like the strongest cigar he's ever smoked?
I don't. One.
Yeah, Dave Garofalo, Two Guys Smoke Shop. He said there's some cigar he was talking about recently. He said it was like the strongest thing he'd ever smoked. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at what it was. But
there's some post he put up the other day. I was kind of curious. So like a lot of I don't know. So like body and strength are not like fully connected for us. Like we tend to think about them a little bit differently, right? Where like body a lot of times is like your flavor band, and how wide is that band, and for us, like a wide flavor band is basically like 6 quadrants, right? So does it fully deliver on 6 quadrants inside of a flavor wheel, right? And then a medium is going to be more 4 quadrants, and a lighter mild is going to be closer to 2 quadrants. So that's where like you get most of your Connecticut, and like, okay, it has a light spice and then heavy cream, right? Like that's a 2 quadrants cigar, right? And so like whenever you like compare like strength, right? So strength is like how associated is it with the tobaccos that you've used, and a lot of times like we're already using Ligero that we've procured ourselves. It's top grade AAA Ligero, right? And we found a lot of times the answer isn't to go for more Ligero in terms of strength, but to add more body or add another quadrant of body, you need to go into a different viso, right? And like the addition of like a half leaf of viso, like I had a retailer friend of mine smokes all the time, as much as you and I, and I gave him one cigar that was one of these without a viso modification, then a half leaf extra viso in the blend, and he said it was ungodly strong, like compared to the other one. And when I told him the one modification that was made, he was shocked, because there's been like, I think maybe a little bit of an overemphasis on like strength entirely coming from Ligero, and there are some pretty gnarly visos out there that really punch way above their weight in the strength category.
Yeah, well, and I also think the people that say they want a strong cigar, they're talking about the body of the cigar. They want that strength. Yeah. They're not talking about the nicotine, because when you give somebody they're like, well, I want a strong cigar. Well, what do you want? Do you want the body, or do you want the nicotine? And they are like, well, the nicotine. Well, I'm like, I don't think you do. I think you want I think you want the flavor on the palate strength. You don't want the nicotine strength. They're two different things. And I think that's the one thing that a lot of people don't get out there is the difference between the two. Out there, you got to really differentiate what you want. Do you want more nicotine, or do you want more on the palate strength? Yeah. And I try, you've explained that, and I think people get confused by that on it. They don't. They want a heavier cigar, but they can't tell you. They think they want more nicotine in a cigar, but they don't. They want more on the palate. Strength. I'm not opposed to a heavier nicotine cigar, but I'd rather have the heavier on the palate taste than the heavier nicotine, man. I don't need to be over here comatose from a heavy vitamin N cigar. You know, they're nice every now and then, but it's not something that I'm looking to smoke. You know, You know, when that nicotine hits you, it hit. You know, you're just like, oof. Okay. You know, a bit too strong for me. You know, on that. Daniel, man, I appreciate you coming on, bro.
Yeah, man, I could talk all night. It's great.
I could too. If I didn't have to be up in 5 hours to go to work, I'd probably
geez.
I'd probably hang out and talk for a heck of a lot longer with you, man. But we're going on 3 hours on the show, which is, you know, fun times, man. I love talking to you, man. Definitely get you back on, and we will marathon it one night.
Yeah. No worries. Great chatting with you. Sorry to keep you up so late.
Oh man, it's not you're good. I just know I got about a 650-mile drive day tomorrow. So.
Oh wow. Wait. All right. Well, be safe. Thanks for having me on. Domain Cigars, Tabacalera Family at Disla, TBFD.com. Check us out. So,
and everything Domain Cigars is down in the description, so it made it easy for you. One-click shop to get in, and anything else you'd like to promote?
Nope. Domain Cigars. So
cool. Raw Cigar Reviews comes back tomorrow night. Brandy and I will be back with AJ Buford from Big Country Cigars. He's got a brand new stick that's dropping, and well, we got the exclusive on it, so you get to see us enjoy it before you guys get to enjoy it. And next Monday night, Alan Sombria from Family by Loyalty is my guest. So that's it for tonight. Daniel, I thank you so much for coming on, brother. Thank you. I love talking with you, man. I talk to you all night long about and nerd out about tobacco.
Yeah, man. All right. We'll do it in person sometime as well. Okay.
Yes, sir. All right. Take care. Be safe out there. Don't do anything Daniel and I wouldn't do because we're sweet and innocent boys. And we will see you next week. Everybody, peace.